Hey guys, welcome to Pocket Saga. So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Ash was in Paldea with Lillie, Part 5, Final. This story is Ash's Paldea story by author Raychiu. Before starting, if you are interested in Pokemon fanfictions, you can consider subscribing this channel and like this video, that will help a lot. Now let's dive in. I still can't believe that Larry is also an Elite Four member. Does that mean he is going to use normal type Pokemon? If that's the case, that will be fine for me. So, you made it this far. I serve as a member of the Elite Four too, yes. Unfortunately for me. At my gym, I use normal type Pokemon, since I feel they have a lot in common with me. But, well, the boss told me to use a different type here. Wait, so that means he's not going to use normal type Pokemon? Then what type is he now? So if you have any complaints, please take them up with La Primera, Larry says. Fine by me. I mean, it will be better if I fight a different type, I say. Anyway, time to get to work. He surprisingly sends out a Tropius, a grass and flying type. Skeleturge. I choose you. I decide to lead with the fire type. Well, I'll be trying my hand with flying type Pokemon this time, Larry says. So he's using flying types, just as I expected, since he has that Staraptor in his team. I decide to go with the initiative by using Will-O-Wisp, burning the Pokemon. Then I go for Hex, which seems to do a decent amount of damage. Lillie says, still. To think that Larry is not only a normal type specialist but a flying type specialist as well. That is also interesting. It will be slightly boring if we see the same battle from before, Luke says. Tropius goes for Air Slash, dealing some damage to Skeleturge, but Skeleturge goes for Torch Song, which is super effective against Tropius. Use Air Slash. Much to my horror, Skeleturge flinches from the attack, and it goes for another Dragon Pulse, dealing a lot of damage to Skeleturge. Use Hex again, I yell, but the attack is blocked by the Sunny Day and Solar Beam. Then it goes for another Air Slash, hitting Skeleturge and sending him flying back. Skeleturge hits the wall and falls to the ground, unconscious and out of the battle. Are you serious? I groan with dismay as my first Pokemon is defeated that easily. As expected from the Elite Four in Paldea, but I'm not going to give up after all. I send out Lucario as my second Pokemon. Use Flash Cannon. Lucario goes for the attack, but Tropius dodges the attack and goes for the Air Slash. Bone Rush to block the attacks. Since I know ground-type moves can't damage Tropius, I decide to use it to shield the Air Slash, before sending a Dark Pulse at Tropius. With the burn in effect, I have Lucario use Dragon Pulse, knocking the Tropius out of the battle. The second Pokemon for Larry is Oricorio, which is a Pom-Pom style, an electric and flying type, I say. I have Lucario use Stone Edge, but Oricorio dodges the attack and uses Revelation Dance, hitting Lucario. Lucario. Use Aura Sphere. Lucario fires the attack at Oricorio, but it is blocked by the Air Slash. When the Air Slash hits, it causes Lucario to flinch, but I also smile since the ability Steadfast is boosting the speed. Teeter Dance. Larry sighs, and much to my horror, Lucario is confused by the attack, much to my horror, and when Lucario is about to hit Oricorio with the power-up punch, it hurts itself with confusion, and Oricorio uses Icy Wind and Revelation Dance to knock it out of the battle. Ash seems to be having some trouble with that Oricorio, Lillie mutters. I wonder if Ash has some strategy to go with, Drandon says. Pikachu. I choose you. I decide to go with my mouse Pokemon, and by using agility to raise the speed, I have it use Electro Rock, but Oricorio dodges the attack and tries to do Teeter Dance. Pikachu. Don't look and dig underground, I yell, since hiding underground seems to work, and once it gets out, it goes for the Icicle Crash, but Oricorio dodges again. Electro Ball. Pikachu fires the attack, but Oricorio retaliates with Icy Wind. Both attacks collide and negate each other. I have Pikachu hide underground again, but this time with the Draco Meteor, and the move causes Larry to be surprised and Oricorio is eventually knocked out of the battle. Never thought you would do that. Larry mutters before sending out his Staraptor, using the Intimidate to lower Pikachu's attack stat. Right now Pikachu has both attack and special attack stat lowered, Poppy points out. Indeed. I wonder how he's going to deal with the Staraptor, Rika says. I have Pikachu use Electro Rock again, hitting it super effectively as it gets paralyzed, but much to my horror, Staraptor goes for the facade attack, and Pikachu takes a lot of damage from the attack.
Pikachu. Use Iron Tail. I have Pikachu jump into the air and hit the Staraptor, but Staraptor goes for close combat. I have Pikachu use Electro Web to block the attack, and it goes for the Thunderbolt. With the paralysis kicking in, Staraptor fainted.
3 down. I say. 3 to go. But Pikachu seems to be weak, so I decide to switch out. Larry's fourth Pokemon is Altaria, and I decide to go with Dragonite.
Dragon and Flying versus Dragon and Flying. Nemona says. Interesting.
The battle begins with Ash commanding Air Slash, which is dodged by Altaria numerous times before finally connecting. Dragonite then uses Dragon Claw, but Larry has Altaria use Dragon Pulse to counter, hitting Dragonite. Dragonite, are you okay? I ask, and he nods. In the meantime, Larry commands Altaria to use Flamethrower. Dragonite nimbly dodges each fire attack flung his way, but after dodging the last, Altaria suddenly pops up in front of Dragonite and uses Ice Beam to send him flying. A close direct Ice Beam is not good for Dragonite, Raychiu says with concern. After checking that Dragonite is alright, I have him dodge Altaria's Moonblast. As it fires another one, I have Dragonite use Icy Wind. The attacks collide and create a smoke cloud, which Ash uses to his advantage by commanding Dragonite to use Dragon Claw. Use Dragon Pulse, Larry says, and the attack manages to block Dragonite. Then both of them go for Dragon Pulse and Dragon Rush at the same time, and both Pokemon eventually go down together, resulting a draw. A draw, Lillie says. That sure is interesting, Nemona says. Both Larry and I return our defeated Pokemon to their Pokeballs. Larry immediately sends out Bombardier, which is his fifth Pokemon. I decide to go with Gardevoir in response. Dual Wingbeat. Larry starts off the battle by having Bombardier use the move, but I have Gardevoir dodge the attack with just eye contact. Then I have it use Dazzling Gleam, which is super effective on Bombardier, but it appears to shrug it off. Rock Slide. Larry orders, and the attack causes Gardevoir to flinch so it can be hit by the knockoff attack.
Gardevoir. Use Shadow Ball. I decide to go for the attack, and Bombardier counters with Dark Pulse, creating a giant smoke. Taking advantage of the field, Bombardier uses Rock Slide again to hit Gardevoir and sends it flying back. Use Double Team and Moonblast. I have Gardevoir create a lot of copies and have them use Moonblast at the Bombardier, but Bombardier is still standing as it goes for Dual Wingbeat again. When it destroys all the copies, I decide to have Gardevoir use Dazzling Gleam, but inside the light, Bombardier still manages to land the Dual Wingbeat. And when the light dies down, both Pokemon also faint.
Another draw. Poppy says with shock. Sure is surprising, Nemona says. Larry says, you're even stronger than before. Guess I don't get a break today. His final Pokemon is Flamigo, so I decide to send Pikachu back out. Pikachu goes for Floaty Fall, but just as it is about to hit, Pikachu is sent flying by the liquidation attack. Then I have Pikachu use Thunderbolt, striking the Pokemon. Keep up the phase. Use Psychic. I say. Pikachu tries to go with the Psychic type move, but Flamigo jumps in front of Pikachu and goes for the Throat Chop, slamming it to the ground, and Pikachu faints. Pikachu. Oh no. I yell in horror after seeing him faint in the end. Looks like Ash only has Raychiu left, Lillie says. Raychiu will be in trouble considering that Flamigo has the fighting type advantage, Raychiu says. I decide to send out Raychiu and have it Terastallize, and my Raychiu has the water type Terra type, so it is fine for me. At the risk of messing up my suit a bit, it's time to get some wind at our backs. Larry decides to go for the Terastallize, and Flamigo is now a pure flying type Pokemon. It immediately goes for the Brave Bird, breaking the ice face of Raychiu. Raychiu. Hang in there and use Snowscapes. I decide to set up the snow and bring the ice face back, then I have Raychiu use Weather Ball, which is super effective.
Flamigo uses Throat Chop again to break the ice face again, and it goes for the close combat. It is a good thing that Raychiu is not ice type, and Flamigo's defenses are lowered.
Now, finish with Blizzard, I yell, and Raychiu eventually defeats the Flamigo in the end. Well, that took the wind from under our wings, Larry says as he recalls his Pokemon. Nice work, Raychiu. I say, and Pikachu also cheers with me and raychiu. You're a lot stronger than I recall. No wonder La Primera likes you, Larry says.
I'm glad to hear that. I say. After we're finished, it is Lillie's turn. Lillie is doing quite well in this match, though she might have struggled a bit because of her Pokemon. I still have to say that Snowy is doing a great job in this battle.
Now then. I suppose the final member of the Elite Four is next. Larry sighs as he turns around. It's your turn, Hassel.
Wait, is this guy serious? How can Hassel hear it if he's just going to stand there without walking towards the door, and using a voice as soft as a fletchling?
Now, where could he be? Larry asks. Don't think he heard you, Larry. Rika points out. Larry sighs as he finally walks towards the door. Come on in, Hassel. Still, the quiet voice, is this guy not liking to yell or something? Larry, you may need to speak up just a little bit more, Rika says. Hassel. The voice is a little louder, but it is not enough. Lillie asks, so how long are we going to wait until he finally calls Professor Hassel out? I don't know. Nimona sighs. Rika facepalms and yells in his place, Hassel, you're up next. Finally, Rika decides to step in, Drandon says. And Professor Hassel finally walks out of the door, and he says, hello there, Ash and Lillie. I see that Drandon, Luke, Raisa, and Nimona are here as well. It delights me to see you here. Same here, Professor. I say, as for you, Larry. I see you made Rika do the shouting again. Professor Hassel turns to Larry with a slight glare, and Larry just turns away. We're reaching our final Elite Four member, and it is our art teacher Professor Hassel. He smiles at us and says, I was, of course, absolutely certain you would make it to me eventually. Young sprouts truly do grow with astounding speed, yes. But I never for a moment imagined we would be facing each other so soon.
You're right, Professor. I say. Now, a teacher's duty is to guide students and aid their growth. But I think I shall forget about my role as a teacher for a moment, and wield all my might for the sole purpose of defeating you. I am Hassel, the dragon guarding the final fortress of the elite test. Prepare to learn firsthand how the fiery breath of ferocious battle feels.
Of course, Professor Hassel is a dragon-type user, although I was curious as to what Pokemon will he uses. His first Pokemon is Noivern. I say, Noivern. Then I'll go with raychiu. When I send out the Ice-type Pokemon, I have it go for the Blizzard, dealing a great strike.
Show me everything you've got. I shall face you with my full strength. Professor Hassel says as he commands Noivern to use Super Fang, breaking the ice face. As usual, I like to use Snowscapes and make the ice face back again. But the ice face is also destroyed when Noivern uses Air Slash. Then raychiu goes for Weather Ball, only to be stopped by the Dragon Pulse. Noivern goes for Super Fang again, but I have raychiu use Protect to block the attack. Let's see how you deal with this. Boomburst. Of course, he's going to have that move, and I have raychiu dodge the attack by sliding on the snow, then it goes for a Surf attack, hitting Noivern. Noivern rushes in for the Super Fang, much to my surprise, and it manages to cut half of raychiu's HP.
Noivern is commanded to use Air Slash to slice at raychiu, which creates a huge dust cloud, and with the Dragon Pulse, raychiu is finally falling to the ground fainted. Really? raychiu is down? Lillie asks with shock. It might have the type advantage, but Professor Hassel is also a strong one, Nimona says. If that's the case, I'll go with Pikachu. I send out my mouse as my second Pokemon, and Pikachu jumps into the field. Use Play Rough. When Pikachu charges at Noivern, it goes for Boomburst, stopping Pikachu at the tracks and dealing some damage. I have Pikachu use Electro Web, lowering its speed, and Noivern decides to go for Air Slash, but Pikachu uses Iron Tail to strike it back. Use Draco Meteor. I yell, and Pikachu fires off the move as meteors are falling from the air. Air Slash to destroy them. Professor Hassel yells, but despite the Air Slash managing to strike some down, Noivern is still hit and knocked out. Haxorus, you're next. Professor Hassel's second Pokemon is Haxorus. I have Pikachu use Icicle Crash, but Haxorus uses Iron Head and dodges the attack, hitting Pikachu. Play Rough. I yell, and Pikachu charges at Haxorus and starts punching him, but Haxorus goes for Rock Tomb. successfully trap Pikachu inside the rock formation, and it goes for Dragon Claw, slashing Pikachu and knocking it out of the battlefield. I'm sorry, Pikachu. I frown as I recall the Pokemon. Skeleturge, I choose you.
After sending the fire-type Pokemon out, Professor Hassel commands Haxorus to use Crunch, and it manages to deal super effective damage.
Will-O-Wisp. I command and have Skeleturge burn the Haxorus, and once it has the status effect, I have it go for Hex, which deals more damage. Use Rock Tomb. Professor Hassel tries to use a Rock-type move to stop Skeleturge, but I have Skeleturge use Torch Song. Both attacks collide with each other, and then I decide to have it use Torch Song again. This time it overpowers the Rock Tomb and hit Haxorus. With the final Shadow Ball, Haxorus is defeated. Now that's 2 losses for both sides, Luke says. This is sure getting interesting, don't you think, Mr. Larry? Poppy asks.
Whatever. Larry mutters. Professor Hassel's third Pokemon is Dragalge, which is a poison and dragon type. Skulldurge. Use Will-O-Wisp. I command the Pokemon to burn Dragalge, and it takes the hit, but it goes for Thunderbolt, making my Skulldurge paralyzed.
Use Hydro Pump, he commands, and I try to have Skeleturge dodge the attack, but it is paralyzed and it is hit. Skeleturge, hang in there and use Shadow Ball, I yell. Since there is a special attack boost in Skeleturge, so the Shadow Ball is doing a lot of damage. Dragalge goes for Dragon Pulse, but Skeleturge's hyper voice manages to break it out, and Skeleturge goes for Hex again, and Dragalge is knocked out. Alright. Nice job, Skeleturge. I cheer for my Pokemon, who nods in agreement. Looks like you're in the lead now, however, I can still go on. Professor Hassel says as he sends out his 4th Pokemon, a Cyclizer. It starts with the Shift Gear, boosting the speed and the attack stat, and I have Skeleturge use Torch Song, but it doesn't seem to do that much damage. Cyclizer is a normal type. That means Ash can't use the Ghost-type moves on it, Luke says. And fire moves aren't going to do well on Cyclizer as well since it's a dragon type, Nimona adds. I have Skeleturge use Will-O-Wisp. It manages to burn the Cyclizer, but Cyclizer goes for Dragon Rush, knocking Skeleturge out of the battle. Lucario. You're next. I decide to go with Lucario, and by starting things out, it uses Power-Up Punch to raise the attack stat and deal some damage. Dragon Pulse. I command, and Cyclizer dodges the attack and lands an Acrobatics from behind, much to my shock, but Lucario manages to brace itself and emerges unscathed. Lucario then goes in for another close combat, but Cyclizer foils Lucario's attack with Double Edge. Use Extreme Speed, I command, and Lucario manages to strike the Pokemon to the ground. Dragon Pulse. Both of us yell at the same time, and the attack creates a giant dust cloud. Then I have Lucario fires an Aurasphere inside the dust cloud, since Aurasphere never misses, and it manages to defeat Cyclizer in the end. The 5th Pokemon from Professor Hassel is Flapple, and I decide to let Lucario continue the battle. Both Pokemon use Dragon Rush and Aerial Ace at the same time, and Lucario manages to knock the Flapple back to the ground first. Keep up the momentum. Use Dragon Pulse. I have Lucario fires the attack, but Flapple uses Seed Bomb to block the attack.
Leech Seed. Much to my horror, Lucario is being surrounded by vines with the HP being absorbed by Flapple. Lucario, calm down and use Aura Sphere. I yell, and Lucario fires the attack at the Pokemon, hitting the Flapple. Flapple goes for another Aerial Ace, and I have Lucario use Poison Jab, getting Flapple poisoned. Dragon Rush. Professor Hassel commands, and Flapple's attack hits Lucario, and causing it to fall to the ground fainted. But with the poison in effect, Flapple also faints as well. Only a little more until you pass. Don't let up, Professor Hassel says to me as he sends out his final Pokemon, a Baxcalibur. Dragonite. I choose you, I say, and I know it is a bad choice since Baxcalibur is an ice type, but I want to save Gardevoir for last. Come, O great dragon, and take a Terra Jewel as your crown. Then Professor Hassel takes out the Terra Orb and uses the Terrastalize, making it a pure dragon type.
Dragon Dance. I command, and Dragonite raises its attack and speed stat, then I have it use Dragon Rush, but Baxcalibur dodges the attack and goes for the Icicle Crash. Dragonite. Block the attack with agility. I yell, hoping that the attacks don't damage much. Dragonite manages to dodge the ice with quick speed, and it lands for Dragon Claw, but with the close distance, Professor Hassel has it use Glaive Rush, knocking it out of the battle.
Glaive Rush again. I mutter before recalling the Pokemon, and I send out my final one, which is Gardevoir.
Gardevoir. Terrastalize. I throw the Terra Orb on top of Gardevoir, making it a pure Fairy type. Then I have it dodge the Icicle Crash using eye contact, and it goes for the Moonblast. With the effect of the Glaive Rush, Baxcalibur takes a lot of damage. Use Ice Shard. Professor Hassel says as he has Baxcalibur fire a lot of ice at Gardevoir, but Gardevoir dodges all of the attacks with ease. Still, I wonder how is he able to command Gardevoir like that, Rika says. It is a technique that he learned from his sister, Lillie says. Gardevoir has a strong bond with Ash after all.
I smile as I have Gardevoir deliver the final blow by using Dazzling Gleam, defeating the Pokemon. The mighty dragon has been felled. Professor Hassel gasps in shock, but he smiles as he recalls his Baxcalibur.
Now it is Lillie's turn to battle, and like the previous battle, Snowy is doing a great job on this one, and Noivern is also doing a nice job assisting Lillie in this battle by defeating two of Professor Hassel's Pokemon. Both of you really did it. Rika claps after Lillie defeats Professor Hassel.
Oh wow. Poppy adds. Huh. Larry nods. Whoa. Wonderful. Much to our surprise, Professor Hassel is now crying with happiness in front of us. I'm just so proud of you. BWUUUH HOI.
Poppy rushes to Professor Hassel and says, "Ah, don't cry, Grandpa Hassel. There. Wanna hug?" I can't believe that the youngest person in the room is trying to comfort Professor Hassel. Rika just sighs and turns to us. Sorry about all this. The old man can get like that sometimes. Drandon says, well, he did that a lot in our classes. We're used to it. So what I do? I'm JUSD so overwhelmed, Professor Hassel says. Guess I've got to do the talking. Anyway, your result of the elite test of the champion assessment is a pass. No doubt about it, Rika smiles. Yeah. You're tougher than steel, Poppy cheers.
Yep. Larry says. Why you did so beautifully. Professor Hassel adds.
Congratulations. I'd say you're good to go, but
there's actually just a wee bit more to the champion assessment. This'll be your final trial. Rika turns around and faces the door. See the door back there. Our fearless commander, the final opponent you'll face for your test, is waiting beyond it. Her skills are so amazing, she was able to strong-arm all of us into joining the Elite Four. You won't find a mightier champion. Though I think you'll do fine. You beat us after all. So don't lose, you hear?
Of course. Lillie and I say in unison. I really love your Pokemon, Poppy says. So I'll cheer for you as hard as I can. Well, good Lou. Even a baby dragon can breathe fire. Larry seems to be a little annoyed that he was cut off by Professor Hassel. Whoa. Guess you got over your sobs, huh? Rika asks.
You can do this. We all know you can. Professor Hassel nods. Now go, young Ash and Lillie. Your hands may be small, but let them seize a great victory. We then walk into the door, ready to face the final opponent, Chairwoman Geeta. Now Lillie and I are walking at the top of the Pokemon League building, where the final battle is held. Chairwoman Geeta is waiting for us, and she smiles. Welcome, Ash and Lillie. It gives me great joy that you've managed to make it all the way to the pinnacle of the Pokemon League. The final test is a battle against me, the top champion. To pass, all you need to do is win. Lillie and I nod as Lillie decides to take a step back and let me battle her. But before we get started, I should apologize for one thing. You see, I have a trait that some might say is inappropriate for the league chairwoman. I am utterly incapable of holding back when it comes to Pokemon battles. Maybe that's why nobody's passed this test recently. It's a bit of a problem, to be honest. That's fine for me, I don't like my opponent holding back on me. I say with a smile. But you might manage something wonderful like Champion Nimona did. Chairwoman Geeta says. So are you ready for your final test? I want to see the true measure of your talent. You bet. I say as my Pokemon is being pumped up. Good.
Chairwoman Gita says, you know, how about the both of you have a double battle against me instead of doing 2 full battles in a row? You can just do that? Lillie asks. Of course, since you two are always together, I want to see how you two cope with each other against me. Chairwoman Gita says, each of you will be using 3 Pokemon against my 6 Pokemon. I look at Lillie, who nods at me. We're ready, we say in unison. Chairwoman Gita sends out 2 Pokemon, Espathra and Gogoat. I decide to go with Skeleturge while Lillie goes with Meowscarada. I do hope the 2 of you can defeat me and become champions yourselves, Chairwoman Gita says. You bet. Skeleturge, use Torch Song. Skeleturge shoots out the Firebird at Gogoat, but Chairwoman Gita has Espathra reflected with Lumina Crash. Bulk up. Chairwoman Gita yells as Gogoat's stats are raised, and it goes for play rough on Meowscarada. Lillie clicks her tongue and says, damn it. She commands Meowscarada to do Night Slash on Espathra, but Espathra uses Reflect to reduce the damage on it. Lillie says, Meowscarada, use Grassy Terrain. Meowscarada sets up the field so that all of their Pokemon can recover their health, and she decides to switch Meowscarada to Heracross by using U-turn on Espathra. Now it is our chance. Skeleturge, overheat on Gogoat, I yell. With the boost of the Torch Song, the attack deals a lot of damage to Gogoat and it gets knocked off. Chairwoman Gita recalls her Pokemon and says, looks like you managed to defeat one, there are 5 to go. She goes with the 3rd Pokemon, Veluza, and I mutter, great. A Water-type Pokemon. Not good for Skeleturge. And it is also a Psychic type, which is also not good for Heracross as well. I just hope that we can overcome this challenge, Lillie says. But Heracross is also a Bug type. I leave the Veluza to you, I'll deal with the Espathra. I say. Since I have the type advantage and the same goes to you. Okay. Now let's focus on the battle. She is the top champion for a reason, and we're not going to lose this battle, Lillie says. Skeleturge. Torch Song, I yell, and Skeleturge uses the attack and hits Espathra, raising the special attack.
Heracross. Bug Buzz. Lillie yells, and Heracross fires the Bug-type attack and lands a hit on Veluza. Veluza uses Aqua Jet and Espathra uses Dazzling Gleam. Heracross is taking a lot of damage, but Ash has Skeleturge and uses Shadow Ball, knocking out Espathra in the end.
While the battle is going on, Nimona and the others are watching through a special room, and Nimona says, I can't believe La Primera will want to have a double battle with Ash and Lillie together instead of going on one-on-one. The boss made the rules, she could do whatever she wants, Larry mutters. And right now Chairwoman Gita has lost 2 Pokemon while Ash and Lillie haven't lost one yet, Raisa says. Chairwoman Gita's next Pokemon is an Avalugg, and we all have the type advantage. She has Avalugg go for Earthquake, hitting Skeleturge and Heracross at the same time.
Looks like Ash and Lily's Skeleturge and Heracross are in deep trouble. Drandon says. I have Skeleturge use Torch Song on Avalugg, but Avalugg goes for a crunch attack, and my Skeleturge is finally knocked out of the battle.
So far Ash has lost Skeleturge, while La Primera lost Espathra and Gogoat, Raisa says. Lucario. I choose you. I decide to go with Lucario, and it is all ready to fight. Use Dark Pulse on Veluza.
Not if Veluza has something to do with it. Chairwoman Gita says as she has Veluza use Aqua Jet, dodging the attack hit strikes at Lucario, dealing some damage. Damn it. Heracross. Use Close Combat. Lillie yells, and Heracross manages to get to Avalugg and strikes the attack on it. The only downside is that Heracross defenses are lowered.
Veluza, use Psycho Cut. Chairwoman Gita commands, and the attack hits Heracross and knocks it out of the battle. Looks like we're now even. Lillie mutters, but still, she really is on another level.
But we can't lose. I say. Lillie goes with Meowscarada again, and at the same time, I yell, Aura Sphere.
Lucario throws the Aura Sphere at Avalugg, but Avalugg uses Crunch to just bite through the attack. Now use Bullet Punch.
Lucario gets close and uses its fists to punch the Avalugg, and Avalugg tries to go for Body Press, but it is unable to overpower Lucario. Eventually, it gets beaten. I guess your Lucario really is strong. Chairwoman Gita says as she sends out the 5th Pokemon, Kingambit. Kingambit. I wonder why she's sending this Pokemon because Lucario is super effective against it. Lillie thinks. While watching the battle, Rika says, Kingambit, looks like they already bring Chairwoman Gita into the corner.
Ash and Lillie can win this. Poppy cheers. By the way, if we can see it through here, does that mean everyone can actually see the match? Luke asks. Of course. Professor Hassel says, everyone will like to see how the famous world monarch Ash Ketchum and Lillie Ether battling against Chairwoman Gita of the Pokemon League in Paldea. Then, much to my surprise, Kingambit goes for Zen Headbutt, eventually defeating my Lucario. Pikachu. You're my final hope. I decide to go with Pikachu, and I decides to go with the Brick Break, which deals a lot of damage to Kingambit. I'll handle Kingambit, can you please fight Veluza and whenever the last Pokemon she may use? Sure. Lillie says to me and has Meowscarada use Flower Trick, defeating the Veluza.
Hey, ha 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 ha. Don't think you've won just yet. Chairwoman Gita says as she sends out her final Pokemon, which is a Glimmora.
Glimmora. Lillie is sweating a little. BT the light that guides all trainers, Glimmora. She uses the Terra Orb and this time it is a rock type, so it is a pure rock type Glimmora. It also goes for Sludge Wave, defeating Meowscarada and also damage Pikachu a little. Snowy. I trust you. Lillie sends out her final Pokemon, and I say, Lillie, you do the Terrastalize. I'm not doing it to be fair. Lillie nods as she uses the Terra Orb and places it on top of Snowy's head, making it a fairy type. Pikachu is using Flame Bolt on Kingambit, but Kingambit uses Kowtow Cleave to cut the attack. Then I have Pikachu use Iron Tail to deal some damage to Kingambit. Meanwhile, Snowy has been dodging the Earth Power attack and goes for Zen Headbutt, making Glimmora flinch. And by using Iron Tail, Glimmora is taking a lot of damage.
Ash, let's finish this together, should we? Lillie asks me, and I smile. Use Thunderbolt Ice Beam. Both of our Pokemon fire the attacks, and it creates a giant explosion that hits both Kingambit and Glimmora. In the end, both Pokemon have fainted as they have swirls in their eyes. You two go beyond my imagination so easily. Chairwoman Gita claps for us, much to our delight. Such overwhelming power. Such amazing skill. It seems Paldea has gained other wonderful trainers to be proud of. Congratulations. It's my honor to call you Champion Ash and Champion Lillie. At the same time, my friends in the Elite Four also rush toward us. Congratulations is right. Now I can really say you're good to go. Rika says.
Yay. You did it, Mr. Ash, Miss Lillie, Poppy says.
Congratulations. Larry nods. JJ just ABAAAZIIING. I can't hold ID in ANYBOORE. Professor Hassel is crying again, causing us to sweat drop.
You Pokemon trainers are the treasure of Paldea. Chairwoman Gita says. And amid that treasure, champions are the jewels that shine brightest. Champion Ash and Champion Lillie. It is now your duty to set an example for all of the trainers of Paldea. Now allow me to walk you back to the entrance. As we walk to the entrance, Drandon says, you two are amazing, the battle is really great. Indeed. Now we have two more champion friends with us, Raisa smiles. You're right about that after all. Luke says, so what do you think about it, Nimona? I decide to ask, and she smiles, ha ha. I knew all along, oh man, Ash and Lillie. I'm a champion, and now, you're champions. Which means we're both champion-ranked trainers. This is amazing. Now that you've made it here, I've got one thing to say. Let me guess, a battle? Lillie asks. Not yet, let's you and me be best rivals for life, Nimona chuckles. Of course. I say. We're already dating and we can also become best rivals. All right. You know what rivals do. Battle their absolute hearts out, Nimona says. I'm gonna hit you with everything this time, you ready? Nimona asks. Do wait a moment, Champion Nimona, Chairwoman Gita says. Huh? What's the matter, La Primera? Nimona asks. The champion assessment has only just ended. I believe rest is in order for Champion Ash and Lillie, Pikachu, Vulpix, and the others. Champions must be understanding toward their opponents. URK. Right. Nimona frowns. There I go getting overexcited again, sorry. It's fine. I say. I also must ask, is this roadside really the setting you three want for your first battle as true equals and rivals? Chairwoman Gita asks. Now that you mention it, that's a good point, Raychiu says. In that case, can they use one of the Pokemon League battle courts? Drandon asks. Surely there's somewhere more fitting. A place with special meaning for the two of you, perhaps. Chairwoman Gita says. Lillie says, how about we battle at the plaza of Mesagoza? Ooh, good call. The place where we set out on our journey. Nimona says. That reminds me. Remember back when Director Clavel explained the treasure hunt? You know how he told us to go in search of our own treasure? Well, I know what treasure I got out of all this. I found two true rivals and best friends. Someone who can stand up to me at my full capabilities. That's right. I mean you too. I'm so glad I got to meet you too. You're right. I say with a smile. The respect you guys share is palpable. Even a bit enviable, to be honest. Chairwoman Gita says. I'm known as La Primera. But even when facing me in the final test of her champion assessment, Champion Nimona didn't reveal her full might. In you, I suspect she has found someone she can battle without holding anything back. Back at Mesagoza, Lillie decides to battle Nimona since it will be fair for her. Nimona asks, you ready for a battle between champions? 'Cause all these folks here seem ready to watch. Word got around, I guess. And it's true, everyone, both students and teachers, are here to watch the battle, and out of every single person gathered here, I'm the most excited by a mile. Me too. Lillie says as they both are standing at the sides of the battlefield. The stage is set. It's my all-out power versus your strength in full fruition, Nimona says. Let's see who comes out on top. Today is Monday, and it is actually the day when the winter vacation finally starts. However, before Lillie and I are going back to Kanto, I ask our families to let us stay a bit more in the Paldea region because it is time for us to go to Area 0. Ash, good morning. Drandon, Raychiu, Luke, Lillie, and Nimona rush into my room, and I say, oh, hey guys. Did you have a good night's rest? I hope I didn't make you very tired last night, Nimona says. Of course not, I'm actually enjoying it a lot. I say as I remember what happened yesterday. Flashback. Nimona is covering her eyes after the loss of a battle, and it seems like Director Clavel and Chairwoman Gita were about to interfere. You did it. Just then, Nimona jumps into the air, much to our surprise. This is legit incredible. You and Ash are the strongest out there, Lillie. I mean, you knocked me flat, and I was giving you absolutely everything I had. Everything I. She tries to laugh and says, oh man. Pokemon battling, am I right? It's so much better, so much more fun than I ever even knew. Lillie shakes hands with Nimona. Nimona says, thanks for that incredible match. You beat me for real this time. Everyone claps at the two of them, and we're doing the same thing. Now let's give ourselves a minute and have a quick break, before I'm going to battle you, Ash. Sure, I don't mind. I say as I step forward. Which Pokemon should I bring out this time? Decisions. Nimona says as she is picking her Pokeballs. Flashback ends. Well, we did have a lot of rounds that Director Clavel and Chairwoman Gita have to stop us. Nimona rubs her head with embarrassment. I agree. We do have a lot of Pokemon after all, Lillie says. Just then, we get a Rotom phone call, and Arvin's the one who's calling us. Yo. Arvin here. Arvin greets us, and his Mabostiff wants to join into the screen, and Arvin has to calm it down. Whoa, down, boy. Don't jump up like that. Seems like hearing your voice has old Mabostiff here all worked up, Ash. Oh. But that's not why I called, nearly forgot. You remember what we talked about before? About going to Area 0? Of course, we're going today, right? I ask. Course you do. You little know-it-all. Got a mind like a steel trap, Well, all the effort you've been putting in around Paldea has really helped you make a name for yourself. Built up some goodwill, that's for sure. Yeah, so we've been able to secure allies who want to go to Area 0 with us, right? Lillie asks. That should have us ready to tackle anything. So now we've all just got to get there. First step will be gathering at Area 0. I'll be ready and waiting at the 0 gate. I'll send you the location on your phone, too. Don't leave me hanging forever. We'll be waiting.
When we look at the gate, Nimona says, it's actually close to Medley City.
Let's go there, and maybe we should also bring Penny along, I say. After the 7 of us arrive at the 0 gate, Arvin waves his hands to us and yells, over here. We rush toward him and he says, this is the 0 gate. It was made so researchers could try to observe the inside of the great crater of Paldea. What folks call Area 0. It's our ticket down into the crater. The crater. I say in awe as Pikachu is mimicking me. Oh, and speaking of the crater. You know that Pokemon of yours? The one I gave you? Area 0 is apparently where Koraidon and Miraidon were born, or something like that. Maybe it'll be happy that it can finally come back home. Not that I really care or anything. So should we head inside? Drandon asks. Sure. Let's go. When we all head inside the building, it is actually dark inside and there are no lights.
Whoa, kinda dark in here, Arvin says. So you're saying that there'd be tons of strong Pokemon? Nimona asks.
You're an annoying lil pest at the academy, but I guess you could come in handy for this. Arvin mutters. Spoken like a guy who wants to get beaten in a battle, Nimona retorts. But more importantly, why is it so dark? And where are the awesome Pokemon? Raychiu asks.
Yeah, it is weird that the lights are off. The last time I was here, the electricity was up and running. But now, Arvin mutters.
Penny seems to be doing something with the Rotom phone, and just then, the lights are turned on. Well, now the lights are on, Lillie says. But why? Luke asks. I turned them on, Penny says. Seems like they were on power-saving mode. Let me guess, you hacked into the system controls and overrode the settings, Luke asks. It is just like the director said. When you need someone good with tech, she's a no-brainer, Arvin says.
I'm not really the adventuring type, but I owe you, Ash and Lillie. And I pay my debts, Penny says. She's surprisingly old-fashioned like that. And of course, everyone knows me, Arvin. My loves include my Mabostiff and cooking and, Arvin says. Biometric identification in progress. Just then, we heard a voice as we look around. Hello, Ash and Lillie. I have been expecting you. That seems like Professor Sada's voice. And it seems you have gathered a group of formidable allies as well. Professor Turo is the one that talks right now.
Sorry. Who are you two? Penny asks. That's my parents. Probably. Arvin lowers his head. We all know that Arvin is actually the son of two famous professors. But still, it is weird hearing their voices right now.
Nimona. Student ID number 805C001. Penny. Student ID number 803B121. Drandon. Student ID number 805C390. Raychiu. Student ID number 805C391. Luke. Student ID number 805C392. I thank you for coming. Professor Turo says. Of course, professors. Oh my gosh, it's such an honor to meet you in person. Nimona says. I mean, maybe not. In person, exactly.
Arvin, did you tell your parents about us? Penny asks with concern. When would I've done that? Arvin asks. To begin with, I'd like to ask you all to make your way down into the great crater of Paldea. You can reach the lower chamber using the elevator you can see to your right. Professor Sada says. Just then, a gate opens automatically, and all of us are in awe. Arvin says, Mom? Dad? Please proceed below. Professor Sada adds. Noticing the frown on Arvin's face, Penny asks, are they not on good terms? Must not be. Nimona sighs. All of us head down into the elevator, and once we get to the bottom floor, we notice a giant door in front of us. Biometric identification in progress. Identities confirmed, Professor Turo says. Just then, the door opens, and for some reason, I feel quite the nostalgia for this. Ooh. It opened for us automatically, Nimona says. Not quite. Looks to me like someone's controlling this thing remotely, Penny says. Hey, Lillie. Did you remember, back when an Ultra Beast is spotted, we would have to do this every time, I say. You're right. It was actually the same, Lillie says to me with a smile.
Once you step through, you will be above Area 0. Professor Turo says. Ash and Lillie, you have brought Koraidon and Miraidon with you. Of course. We say. If you utilize Koraidon and Miraidon's gliding capabilities, you should be able to descend into the depths to reach Area 0. Professor Sada says. What? Isn't there, like, an elevator or something? And wait, did you say both Corydon and Meridon can fly? Penny asks. When you reach the bottom, I will get in touch once again. I hope your trip is uneventful. Professor Sada says.
Railroading people into stuff, just like always, Arvin sighs. Well, I can't wait to see what Pokemon live down in Area Zero. Let's go. Nimona says as she rushes off. That girl. Is she, like, incapable of fear or what? Penny asks before chasing after her. I'd guess we'd better go too, Arvin says. The six of us also chase after Nimona and Penny, until we are at the edge of the transportation gate. We look down from the way we're standing, and Raychiu says, this sure is so deep.
I know. If we take a wrong step, we could have died right here right now. Drandon says.
But with Corydon and Meridon can safely glide us down, then it should be fine, right? Luke asks. We take out the two Pokemon, Corydon and Meridon. I say, boys get on Meridon while girls get on Corydon? Sure. Lillie says. But then we notice both Corydon and Meridon seem to be depressed. What's the matter with them? Nimona asks. HMPH. Arvin sighs. Scared of heights, that's what I'd say. Then Arvin jumps on Meridon. Well, no wonder, Drandon says. Drandon, Luke, and I also jump onto Meridon. But no need to be scared if we go together, Nimona says as she also jumps onto Corydon. How does that logic work? Penny asks as she also jumps onto Corydon. I don't know. Raychiu says as she also does the same, and Lillie is the last one to get on. Just then, the two of us are now jumping down from the place where it and both Corydon and Meridon activate their sky-build forms. Here we go. I yell as we are now descending from above, the clouds are blocking our visions and we're trying not to fall off of Corydon and Meridon. Once we open our eyes again, we are surprised to see what the whole Area Zero looks like. There is a giant waterfall, and a lot of rocks and grass, and a path that leads downwards. There are also a few buildings in the area.
But what shocks us the most is the Pokemon here. It seems like the place is a paradise for a lot of Pokemon, like Braviary, Corviknight, Volcarona, Farigiraf, and so on. And now I'm back here again. Arvin frowns. Ha. Ha. I think I might have died once or twice there. Penny says.
You're not the only one. Raychiu adds. Both Corydon and Meridon are shivering, and I ask, what's wrong, you two? Just then, they all return to their Pokeballs by themselves. Drandon asks, they chose to go back into their balls. They're probably just hungry or something, Luke says. Hey, where is Nimona? Lillie asks, and we find that she is not here with us. Wah? She's gone. You don't think she? Penny asks. Everyone, you have to see this. Nimona rushes to us. Area Zero is amazing. Come on already. If you're a Pokemon, I guess your ability would be own tempo, huh? Lillie sighs. Biometric identification in progress. 8 humans were identified. Condition satisfactory. Professor Sada calls us. Vital signs all within normal range. It appears you were able to make the descent without being harmed. Huh, yeah, sure. Smooth sailing. Who could possibly complain about a landing like that? Arvin folds his hands and asks. That's good. Professor Turo says. I had concerns you might fail, given the crudeness of the only available access method.
We're confused. I think your dad's sarcasm detector needs fixing. Penny says. Ah, you were worried about us. That's so sweet. Nimona says. You should now make your way to us at the Zero Lab, in the deepest part of Area Zero. Professor Sada says. However, the entrance to the lab is barred by 4 locks, installed on the exterior, which I cannot unlock.
4 locks? Drandon asks. On your way to me, you must visit 4 research stations that were constructed inside the crater. Professor Sada says. At each station, you will be able to disable one of the locks. Do so as you make your way down. I hope you succeed. After that, the call ended. I say, well, let's disable the 4 locks and get into that lab.
Sounds kinda video gamey when you say it out loud, huh? Nimona asks. Come on, time to find our way to the deepest part of Area Zero.
All of us nod as we prepare to leave together. Monday.
Today begins our first day of exploring Area Zero. The 8 of us decide to set our goal to the first base. Both Corydon and Meridon refuse to get out of the Pokeball, so all we can just do is walk. So do we have enough food with us? I ask Lillie, who looks at the basket and says, sure, 5 days of food is enough for us.
So this is the inside of the Great Crater of Paldea, Area Zero. Penny says. Feels different from just seeing it in our textbooks. It's so intense. Normally we'd never be able to get in here to see it for ourselves, Drandon says. If only Corydon and Meridon didn't get spooked by something, since they're hiding in their balls.
En serio. That's not good, Nimona says. Can we even get back up to the surface without it? Ryasa asks. Should be alright. The last time I was here, Arvin says, I caught a flying taxi out of the crater. They always come through, if you're a real sob story. Why didn't you just call the professors, if they're down here? Don't get along or something? Penny asks.
TCH. None of your business, Pipsqueak. Arvin is annoyed. Geez. No need to bite my head off. What are you getting all huffy for anyway? Nimona asks.
Okay, come on, guys. This is an adventure. Let's just have a good time. I say with a sigh. After being silent for a while, Ryasa decides to talk again. So how was your school life right now, Penny?
Well, everything was going off the rails. School was a mess, and my friendships. Well, ditto. Ash and Lillie were a big help getting all that sorted out. Arvin says, hold it right there. You think you've got cool friendship origin stories with Ash and Lillie? They're nothing compared to what me and them went through. Our friendship's on another level. Sure. Lillie says with a sweat drop. Nobody asked you. Stop trying to flex on us. Penny says, much to Arvin's annoyance. When we finally arrive at the first base, I say, I think this is what we're looking for. Yeah, this must be one of the buildings the professors were talking about, Lillie says. Oh yeah, what were they called? Radish rations? Arvin asks.
Research stations. Penny sighs. HMPH. Well, I was close. Arvin says.
Wow, you have such a great memory, Penny, Nimona says. What's great is my common sense compared to you lot, apparently, Penny mutters. Hey, don't compare us with those two, Luke says. Just then, we find 2 Glimmora in front of us, Penny gasps. Gia. What the heck is that? That's Glimmora. I say. I think Chairwoman Gita uses this one as her last Pokemon.
Yeah, I didn't know that species could be found in the Great Crater. Luke says.
Then we decide to take on the Pokemon together, and eventually, we defeat both Glimmora with our Pokemon's help. Are there gonna be a lot more of these rare Pokemon down here, you think? Nimona asks. You think that was something? Please. You've got no idea how terrifying Area Zero really is, Arvin says. Wow, patronizing much? Penny asks. Easy. You two, let's just head inside the research station, Lillie says as we all enter the research station. Inside the research station, there are rooms for sleeping, rooms for cooking, rooms for studying Pokemon, and so on. Wow. Are these ancient ruins? Nimona asks, and we sweat drop a little. They look far too recent for that, I say, noticing the technology here. It appears you have reached your first research station without incident. Professor Sada's voice appears once more. This facility was constructed 87 years ago as a way station for those surveying Area Zero. So I assume that's why there are rooms for sleeping. Lillie says. Looks like we can use this place to rest up if we need to. Ash and Lillie, if you would be so kind as to disable the first lock on the lab using that central panel, Professor Sada continues. After we press the button to disable one of the locks on the Zero lab, it shows us that there are 3 more remaining. Well done. Please continue your efforts at the remaining research stations, Professor Sada says. Nimona says, so looks like we're going to stay here for the night? I guess so. We know nothing about these places. I think it will be better if we get to research all of it, Lillie says. Speaking of research, your parents did ask you to research everything about the Great Crater of Paldea, right? Ryasa asks. They did. Lillie sigh. After all, this is Area Zero, and not everyone can come here if they want to. So should we split up? Raychiu asks. We should. I say as we decide to split up and look around the research station and outside, but we promise not to get too far because of the danger that might be around us.
While looking around the area, Nimona, Lillie, and I decide to read some books that are scattered on the counter. Most of these words are written by Professor Turo.
We've determined that this energy crystallization is linked to the being we call. The interlocking hexagonal plates that comprise S shell must somehow cause this phenomenon, which I've dubbed terrestrializing.
Thanks to my prototype Terra Orb, I secured corporate funding for my research and made a laboratory in the lighthouse near Cabo Poco. Someday, though, I'll return to the crater and resume my study of these crystals. I wonder what this being is, another legendary Pokemon. I ask with confusion.
Maybe. Everything is too mysterious, Lillie says. Then I decide to send out Arceus, and he looks around the area and says, "So you finally come into Area 0. Yeah. We decide to do an expedition for 5 days straight, I say. We are also here to learn about what happened to Koraidon and Miraidon, and also the paradox Pokemon like the Great Tusk and Iron Treads. I see. I can sense some Pokemon that doesn't belong to this world around here," Arceus says. "If you're lucky, you'll be able to find them." Then he becomes invisible, and Nimona says, "Having a god like Arceus at your side is something." It sure is. I say as we continue moving. While we walk around, we manage to find a lot of Volcarona on the way, but there is a Volcarona whose wings are closed off. Lillie says, "Why is Volcarona looking different from the others?" "Do you think it is one of the paradox Pokemon?" Nimona asks. "It's a good thing that Penny gives me an account that accesses all the books in the library," I say as I decide to search for the occulture and find the entry of this one. Slitherwing. A prehistoric Volcarona, revived. There have been precious few sightings reported of the ultra-mysterious Slitherwing, a being whose name is taken from that of a similar-seeming creature described in the ever-puzzling Scarvio book. Slitherwing shares traits with Volcarona, so some theorize that it may have been revived from fossils from a prehistoric era that we have discussed in these pages. However, no Volcarona fossils of that era are known to have been found. Slitherwing. I have to guess that it is the name of the Pokemon, Lillie says. So it is the ancient form of Volcarona. Let's capture it, I say as I take out Glimmora, ready to battle the Pokemon. Slitherwing notices us and immediately goes for the first impression, landing the first strike. That means Slitherwing is a bug type, of course. Glimmora, Power Gem. I have Glimmora shoots the crystals, but much to my surprise, they're just dealing normal damage. Normal damage? Lillie asks, and Slitherwing suddenly rushes forward and goes for the low sweep, and I say, "It's also a fighting type?"
"We already have Heracross and 2 Ultra Beasts," Lillie mutters, "but they are 4 times weak to flying." "You're right," I say as I recall Glimmora and send out Kilowattrel, having it use Hurricane, and the Pokemon is defeated in the end. I also use the chance to throw a Pokeball and capture the Pokemon.
Slitherwing. The paradox Pokemon. Bug and fighting type. This Pokemon somewhat resembles an ancient form of Volcarona that was introduced in a dubious magazine. So there are a common Volcarona and Slitherwing in the area, Nimona says. I wonder how they manage to cooperate with one another. I don't know, Lillie says. But is it just me, or did that Volcarona's wings look really metallic? We look in Lillie's direction, and by getting a close look, we notice another Volcarona whose wings look like it is installed on the Pokemon. I decide to quickly check the occulture. Iron Moth. A UFO sent to spy on humankind. The name Iron Moth was borrowed from that of a flying object described in the era-defining Scarvio book. It was said to resemble Volcarona and would descend from the skies, following people around and occasionally even attacking them. Some point to Iron Moth's aggression as a sign that it is, in fact, a UFO of sorts being controlled by alien life. Perhaps something out there is using Iron Moth to observe us, waiting for the moment to mount an invasion. So it is an alien, this Iron Moth? Nimona asks. Waiting for the moment to mount an invasion seems bad news. But then again, it must be in the future, right? I don't know, but I think we should capture it as well, I say. Iron Moth notices us as it goes for Fiery Dance, and we have to dodge the attack. So the past Volcarona keeps the bug type while the future Volcarona keeps the fire type? Lillie asks. But what is its other typing?
Nimona asks. And by using the sludge wave, we realize that it is poison type. So I decide to go with iron treads, using earthquake, which it surprisingly doesn't have the levitate ability, and it defeats the Pokemon.
Iron Moth. The Paradox Pokemon. Fire and Poison type. No records exist of this species being caught. Data is lacking, but the Pokemon's traits match up with an object described in an old book.
By the way, I noticed that their abilities are unique. Lillie says after gathering us in the research station. Both Great Tusk and Slitherwing have the ability, Protosynthesis. It boosts the Pokemon's most proficient stat in harsh sunlight or if the Pokemon is holding booster energy.
We don't have any booster energy with us, Raychiu says. But we can try it out when they use Sunny Day. As for Iron Treads and Iron Moth, they have the ability Quark Drive. It boosts the Pokemon's most proficient stat in electric terrain or if the Pokemon is holding booster energy.
Harsh sunlight and electric terrain. I definitely not expecting that. Drandon says.
Same here. I sigh. So you guys have found anything in the station?
Nothing besides some basic supplies. Arvin says. It should be fine for us to stay here for a day, but we'll have to get to the next station tomorrow. You're right, I say. Then we all decide to have dinner before we head to our rooms for rest.
Tuesday. The next day has arisen, and we decide to head further deep into Area 0. On our way, we also decide to chat for some information. I almost never saw my parents in my whole life, Arvin mutters. Oh, is it time for the backstory reveal? Penny asks.
Penny, shish. Ryasa shushes her. They were always busy with work. Hardly ever came home. I cooked for myself, cleaned for myself. Mabosstiff was the only one I had to talk to. So, yeah, I don't really know them at all. Even if they are my parents.
It must be very harsh on you, Drandon says. I tried not to think too much about it.
Tried to just be proud that they were these famous genii. But the truth is, I would have rather just had parents who were there, even if they weren't anything great. I haven't seen them for ages now. Unless you count seeing them in the news or whatever. Used to at least get emails sometimes. But even those stopped a couple years ago. And then they appear, out of the blue, and tell me we've gotta come to Area 0. TCH. Some family, right? Oh, but, Penny mutters. We're not here to judge or anything. And, I'm sorry about yesterday. I shouldn't have snapped at you like that.
Nah, I was also giving you a hard time. Sorry. Arvin says.
Penny. My name's Penny. Penny says. You know, you're actually pretty nice for a little pipsqueak.
Hey. Don't call me a pipsqueak, you big lunk, Penny says. That's the spirit, you too, Nimona cheers. After we decide to change some topics, Arvin decides to speak up again. Last time I came to the Great Crater, I was trying to go see my parents. I got about this far, then I got attacked by some kind of creature I'd never seen before. Really? What kind of Pokemon was it? Luke asks. It wasn't even a Pokemon. More like this crazy violent, rampaging sort of thing and crazy weird, metallic, machine thing. You sure it wasn't just a Pokemon that's a little more, I dunno, rampagey and robot-y than average? Nimona asks. Yeah, I'm sure. It was like a completely different creature altogether. And it hurt Mabosstiff really bad, so it's not like I just forget. I don't ever want to run into that awful thing again. Arvin mutters. They were that strong, huh? Nimona asks. I wonder if there are more of them other than the Donphan and the Volcarona we saw. That's what I figured you'd say, Arvin mutters. You're real tactless sometimes, Nimona, you know that? Penny sighs. When we finally reach the second research station, I say, the second research station, about time, too. Phew. Let's head in and take a breather. Nimona is panting. I thought you'd have a bit more stamina, student council girl. Arvin sighs. Well, we did walk for a couple hours. Heh. Who? I'm just full of surprises, Nimona says. That wasn't a compliment, you know, Drandon mutters. Penny turns around and says, hey, look, a Delibird and a Jigglypuff. It's good to see some nice familiar Pokemon down here too. The two Pokemon get our attention, but I notice that something's off with those two. Oh my gosh. They're so cute, Penny says as she tries to approach them, but then they start doing something crazy. The Delibird's head is spinning like a robot, and the Jigglypuff is roaring. What the? Wog! Penny yells. That's not the Jigglypuff and the Delibird. Let me see the occulture, I say. Screamtail. A billion-year-old Jigglypuff? Somewhere in a Paldean forest, it's said, lurks Screamtail. A being with Jigglypuff's own endearing puffball appearance but also a ferocious aggression that leads it to attack anyone who comes near. Its primitive appearance and savage nature have prompted rumors that it could be a Jigglypuff from 1 billion years ago. It's named after a creature in the Scarvio book that is described as having a distinctive tail and scream. Iron Bundle. An ancient civilization's robot. The mysterious Scarvio book makes reference to a being called Iron Bundle, which was said to look like Delibird and to possess a spherical apparatus from which it would fire huge blasts of ice to propel itself through snowy lands. Plenty of theories about it have been floated. A leading one suggests it is the product of a long-gone civilization, a notion supported by ancient writings that describe the design and usage of machines resembling Iron Bundle. Screamtail and Iron Bundle. Lillie says. Well, let's capture them, I say. Penny decides to help us out and we decide to battle the two Pokémon. Screamtail uses Play Rough on Penny's Umbreon, and I say, so it is still a fairy type. Then much to our surprise, it goes for Psychic Fangs on my Glimmora, dealing a lot of damage, and it has to be a Psychic type as well. As for Iron Bundle, it goes for Blizzard, which proves to be Ice type, but just as it goes for Hydro Pump, Glimmora almost faints and we realize that it is a Water type as well.
So a fairy, psychic type Screamtail, and an ice, water type Iron Bundle. Ryasa says. That's cool.
After we struggle for a while, the two Pokémon are captured. Screamtail. The Paradox Pokémon. Fairy and Psychic type. There has been only one reported sighting of this Pokémon. It resembles a mysterious creature depicted in an old expedition journal. Iron Bundle. The Paradox Pokémon. Ice and Water type. Its shape is similar to a robot featured in a paranormal magazine article. The robot was said to have been created by an ancient civilization. Seriously, what were those? Darn things scared me half to death, Penny mutters. They were definitely kinda ferocious for a Jigglypuff, and mechanical looking for a Delibird, wasn't it? Luke asks. No kidding. Arvin adds. Come on, let's get inside already. One more jump scare like that and I'm done for. Penny sighs. After heading inside the lab, I say, well, this looks pretty much the same as the first research station. Seems like wild Pokémon don't come in here. We should be safe to catch our breath, Lillie says.
Hey, seriously, what's with these places? Those Pokémon? Penny asks.
I've been wondering about that myself. Arvin says. I think maybe those Pokémon were one of these? He shows the page of the monsters of Area 0 to the others. Though Lillie and I already know the truth because of Arceus.
Monsters of Area 0? Penny asks. So they aren't actually Pokémon? Nimona asks.
I don't really know. Arvin says. They're definitely Pokémon, they use moves and battles, and the Pokeballs work on them. I say. I suppose the time has come for an explanation. Professor Turo says. Some of the lifeforms that you see residing now within Area 0 are the future and ancient Pokémon that lived in a distant day we have yet to see and distant past long lost to us. Future and ancient Pokémon? Arvin asks in shock. What? That's awesome, Nimona says. Oh, come on. There's no way that's possible, Penny mutters. The Zero Lab, where we are located, contains a time machine. It summons the future and past Pokémon to this place, Professor Turo says. So the thing my parents spent forever researching down here, they actually got it working? Arvin asks. Indeed. Though the cost was catastrophic, Professor Turo says. The cost? We are confused. But, a time machine? You mean you can actually travel to and from the past and the future? Luke asks. It is theoretically possible to travel to the past and the future, Professor Turo says. However, for a being such as a human, it would not be possible to return to the present. Well, that's horrifying. Penny says, Dad, you and Mom, why did you call us here to Area 0? Arvin asks. Arvin, we. Professor Turo stops for a while before saying, if possible, we would like us to speak when we can meet face to face. It will be easier for you to understand once you can see the situation for yourself. Arvin frowns, and Professor Turo asks us to disable another lock, and we do it in the end. Hey Ash, Lillie. Arvin says. You know that book they told me to bring? I think it's got something to do with this place. Or more like, everything to do with this place. But I'm not the one he expects to fix whatever all this is. You are. I think you should be the one to carry it. Then he gives us the Scarvio book, and he asks us to take care of it. Then we decide to look for the books here once more. At last, I can resume work on the Terra project. I'll move my research to the Zero Lab this month. My team will be smaller, but no matter. The strong influence of the crystals makes our experiments much more unstable. The crystals' power is tremendous. Their unstable output made our corporate backers fret, but if we can harness this energy, it will open up research possibilities we'd only dreamed of. At last, paradise will be ours to create. Then we head outside and we notice a strange magneton walking towards us. Nimona says, that is not a magneton, right? I don't think so. I say, it looks much hairier. Sandy shocks. A magneton with a 10,000-year lifespan? Some scientists claim that this mysterious being is a magneton that has lived for 10,000 years. It has been sighted numerous times in Paldea's more arid regions, but there are no reports of it ever having been caught. It's said that Sandy shocks is an aggressive sort and that some people who've seen it have been attacked as well. It takes its name from a beast with a matching description in the era-defining Scarvio book. Since it can use zap cannon, it is probably still an electric type, but when it goes for earth power, it surprises us since it is also a ground type. I have Great Tusk Iron bundle deal with the Pokemon and capture it in the end. Sandy shocks. The Paradox Pokemon. Electric and ground type. No records exist of this Pokemon being caught. Data is lacking, but the Pokemon's traits match up with a creature shown in an expedition journal. And it is not just Magneton, there is also a Tyranitar that looks robotic. Iron Thorns. A Tyranitar of the distant future. A strange being called Iron Thorns has been sighted in a certain cave in Paldea. This being bears a strong resemblance to Tyranitar, but it apparently displays great cool-headedness and prefers to avoid unnecessary fights. It appears to be highly intelligent and clad in metallic armor, causing some to speculate that it may be a Tyranitar as it would appear a billion years from now. Its name comes from a similarly described entity that appears in the Scarvio book. So we also have an Iron Thorns. I wonder why the future Pokemon needs to have an Iron in the first name. I don't know. I say, Iron Thorns can use Stone Edge, so we think it is still a rock type, but when it goes for discharge, we are surprised that it is now an electric type as well. Still, with Iron Thread's help, we manage to capture it. Iron Thorns. The Paradox Pokemon. Rock and electric type. It has some similarities to a Pokemon introduced in a dubious magazine as a Tyranitar from 1 billion years into the future. Now we have 4 of the ancient Pokemon and 4 of the future Pokemon. I wonder how many are there, I mutter. Wednesday. When we decide to continue to move further down, Arvin asks, what are your parents like, Nimona? My parents? Normal, I guess. Nimona says. Are you serious? Even I know about your dad. He's on the board of the Rotom Phone Company, Penny says. Wait, how do you know that? Nimona asks with surprise. Well, she only did tell the 5 of us because we're friends, but not Penny because they barely met before this adventure. Seriously, everyone knows that. He's famous, Luke says. And I guess I looked into him for my own reasons, too, Penny sighs. So Nimona's actually some pampered little princess from a rich family? Arvin asks. No. No way. That's so not my thing. Maybe for Raychiu or Lillie, but not me. Nimona blushes. Just because my father is the famous top coordinator doesn't mean I want to be a pampered princess, Raychiu says. Same here. Lillie says, and if anything, Ash is the real prince. I sigh. Really? I know I'm some sort of royal family from the Rhoda Kingdom, but I also want to be normal as well. Sure. Your life is not actually normal, Drandon says. Though, yeah. I guess you could say mother and father were, like, hands off but in a good way. Nimona asks. My big sister will probably take over the business, so they pretty much let me do what I wanted. Wait, you call them mother and father? Arvin asks. That is some pampered little princess stuff right there, Penny says. Gah. Collate, Penny. What, is your family super normal, then? Nimona blushes and yells. My family is unbelievably annoying, Penny mutters. Like super overprotective, you mean? I ask. It's just my dad, he's loud and clingy and makes up weird nicknames for me, like, Pen Pen. He's the most annoying guy in the world. Period. He's the worst, Penny says. Man, that's a real downer. Dot for your dad. Having his own daughter describe him like that, Arvin says. Don't you dare take his side, Penny yells. By the way, Drandon, how about your parents? Nimona asks. I rather not talk about it, Drandon mutters. I remember the last time I went to the dragon village with Iris and Salon. Iris' friend Shannon told us that her parents passed away when she was little, and she has dragons to accompany her. I can actually feel you, Penny. Lillie says. I definitely do not like my mother doing the same thing to me. Oh yeah, I still remember you got into a fight with your mother because you don't want her Clefairy to evolve. I chuckle, as Lillie playfully smacks me on the back. Meanie. Lillie pouts. What about your mother, Ash? Arvin asks. His mother seems super nice, Nimona says. You met her? Arvin asks Nimona. Yup. Also got a glimpse of an amazing looking sandwich she made, too, Raychiu says. Yeah, I remember there is one time my mother used my kitchen to make some sandwiches for us to eat. Really? Wish I could have seen that. I bet it tasted great, Arvin says. Maybe next time. She has been busy with the champion work during these days, I sigh. We finally get to the bottom of the crater, and Luke says, it doesn't seem anywhere to go except for several caves. But there isn't another research station except for that one over there, Raychiu says. We'll find it tomorrow. Let's just go to that research station first, I say. After getting to the third research station, Nimona says, Niece, we get to chill for another day. Something's gonna jump out at us again, 100% guaranteed, Penny says. Ha, oh, Penny. Such a worrywart, Nimona says. No, there's definitely something. I say as we all raise our guard, and then a great tusk and an iron treads appear in front of us. See? Penny yells at Nimona. Wait, a sec. This is just like that Titan Pokemon we saw. Arvin says. So they were ancient and future Pokemon all along? Though those two of them, Great Tusk and Iron Treads, look seriously strong, Nimona says. Yeah, well, Ash, Lillie, and I are old pros when it comes to Titans. Leave this to us, Arvin says. The two of us fight against the two Donphan variants, and by using Flamigo with Arvin's Mabostiff, we manage to defeat both Pokemon with ease. See that? Victory's ours, Arvin says. Maybe the one you captured when we were searching out the Herba Mystica came from down here. That was already concluded by Professor Sada and Professor Turo, I say. Though if we've got things from literal ancient and future times roaming around Paldea, that's a major problem, Penny says. Aren't Professor Sada and Professor Turo doing anything to keep them under control? How could they let this happen? Yeah. Right. 'Cause it's not like oh so brilliant Professor Sada and Turo ever messes up. Arvin mutters. Come on. Let's get into that research station. After entering the station, Nimona says, Ond made it to station number 3. How are we doing after all that walking and battling and whatnot? Does anyone need a rest? Drandon asks. Sure, and maybe we can spend more time looking around the caves to see where the 4th station leads to. Penny has been in deep thoughts and Lillie asks, are you feeling rough? Oh, no, it's not that. I've just been thinking ever since the professors mentioned that time machine. The Pokemon here in Area 0 came to our time from the past and the future, right? So what about Koraidon and Miraidon? Aren't they pretty likely that they're also one of those ancient Pokemon or future Pokemon? Yeah. Koraidon and Miraidon look like Cyclizer after all, I say. I think you're onto something. It is kinda giving off ancient and future vibes. Even its name sounds. Past Y and future Y, Luke says. Wait a sec. I totally forgot. Hey, Arvin. Lillie says. You had Koraidon and Miraidon's balls. And you told us about their forms in the first place. You must know something about it, right? URK. You still remember that from way back? No wonder you're everybody's little star pupil just like that girl. Arvin mutters. Guess I've got no choice, then, but to tell you what I know. Those Pokemon, Koraidon and Miraidon, that is. They were found by my mom and dad when they were working on their time machine. I believe it would be best for me to take over the explanations at this point. Just then, Professor Sada's voice appears once more. Professor. Raychiu yells. Koraidon and Miraidon, which I entrusted to Ash and Lillie, were the first Pokemon that was successfully retrieved from the past and the future respectively by the time machine. Professor Sada says. Seriously. Arvin mutters. Through analysis of their genetic makeup, as well as their behavioral patterns, we came to realize that what we had discovered was in fact an ancient and future form of Cyclizer, the Pokemon still commonly ridden in this region. Professor Sada explains. Well, that makes sense, I guess. They do look alike, Penny says. Many other Pokemon also came to this place from across the boundaries of time, but we were never able to bring over more than 2 specimens of Koraidon and 2 specimens of Miraidon. Huh? You mean there's another Koraidon or Miraidon around here somewhere? Brandon asks. What if they're family? The other ones could still be somewhere in Area Zero, waiting to finally be reunited with our Koraidon and Miraidon. Nimona suggests. A heartwarming family reunion? Penny is skeptical. Exactly. Imagine how thrilled they'll be if we can get the family back together after all this time, Nimona says. Family, huh? Yeah, that sounds nice, Arvin says. If we could proceed, Ash and Lillie, Professor Sada asks, and we also disable the third lock before getting to find more journals on the desks. Our time machine research has yielded a triumph. A Pokemon from the ancient past and the distant future. We've named them Koraidon and Miraidon. We were expecting one new life to treasure, but what fortune to be blessed with this gift as well. We've successfully brought more and more ancient and future Pokemon to our time since the first one. We're so close to creating a world like the one in the book. A paradise where we 3 can live happily together forever. I must make it real. A world where we 3 can live together. I mutter as I look at Arvin with concern. For some reason I don't really like it. Then we decide to look around until we find a cave. Inside the cave, we are surprised to see a giant dragon Pokemon in front of us. Is that a Mega Salamence? Brandon asks. That must be an ancient Pokemon as well, I say as I read the Occulture. Roaring Moon. A primeval Salamence. This elusive creature is called Roaring Moon after a similarly described being in the Scarvio book. It looks similar to Salamence when they undergo a certain phenomenon elsewhere in the world, but it's unclear if there is any connection. This creature scatters feathers as it flies around at high speeds seeking prey. It's thought to be more savage than Salamence, and if you should encounter one, it's imperative that you avoid actual contact. The phenomenon elsewhere in the world has to mean mega evolution, right? Lillie asks. So it really looks like a Mega Salamence. And I have to assume that it is actually stronger than the other ancient Pokemon, I say. We find out that it is Dragon and Dark type after it uses Throat Chop and Dragon Rush, and I use Screamtail's Dazzling Gleam to defeat it and capture it. Roaring Moon. The Paradox Pokemon. Dragon and Dark type. According to an article in a dubious magazine, this Pokemon has some connection to a phenomenon that occurs in a certain region. And there is another one. Is that a Mega Gardevoir or a Mega Gallade? Raychiu asks. It seems to be the both of them combined, Luke asks. Iron Valiant. An experiment gone wrong. This oddity's name is borrowed from that of an object described in the Scarvio book. One theory holds that it is in fact a robot, the product of a mad scientist's efforts to create the most powerful psychic Pokemon of all. According to its few eyewitnesses, Iron Valiant appears similar to both Gardevoir and Gallade. It's also said to be cruel enough to take its brilliantly shining blade and cut down anyone confronting it without hesitation. Iron Valiant. Another iron in the name. I sigh as we see how it uses close combat and Spirit Break. Hey, isn't that Grimmsnarl's signature move? Lillie asks after Pikachu and Snowy dodge the move. Yeah. But if this Pokemon is Gardevoir and Gallade combined, then it is a fairy and a fighting type. I say, then I have Iron Moth out and have it use Sludge Wave, knocking out the Pokemon and capturing it. Iron Valiant. The Paradox Pokemon. Fairy and fighting type. It has some similarities to a mad scientist's invention covered in a paranormal magazine. That sure is paranormal, I say with a sigh as we all head out of the cave. Thursday. After searching for a while yesterday, we find a giant cave that leads further down inside the cave. So Koraidon's an ancient Pokemon, while Miraidon's a future Pokemon. No wonder no one's seen them before. Nimona says. Ash, Lillie, you've gotta let me battle both of them right now. They still won't come out of their Pokeballs, I say, feeling the scared emotions from both Koraidon and Miraidon. Oh, right. Nimona mutters. That was the first I heard of them coming from the past and future myself. Arven mutters. They were just some weird Pokemon my parents brought home all of a sudden one day. We all lived together at the Lighthouse Lab for a little while. My parents made me promise to keep them a secret. And I had to take care of it for them, too. So that's why you knew so much about them, Raychiu says. Yeah, but then one day, Koraidon and Miraidon just went nuts against some wild Pokemon. A few of the folks living nearby ended up seeing them, so the secret was out. Once that happened, my parents took them, and went back to Area Zero, Arven says. Guess that makes sense if they're Pokemon from a different age, Penny says. Yeah. If people found out, it'd be all over the news, Arven says. I didn't see my parents or Koraidon and Miraidon again after that. For ages. Looking back on it now, it seems stupid, but I felt like I'd lost my parents 'cause of Koraidon and Miraidon. It was the worst feeling ever. I just hated Koraidon and Miraidon and everything about them. Didn't want to even talk about them. I'm sorry for not telling you what I knew sooner, Ash and Lillie. It's fine. We don't blame you, Lillie says. But you should be sorry, Nimona yells. Shoot. That's, like, the coolest thing ever, and you didn't tell any of us. Yup. Sure would have been great to know all that relevant info before we got here, Penny says. Dang, you guys. Harsh. Arven mutters. Once we enter the cave, we are surprised to see a lot of crystals around the area. Oh my gosh. Look at all these huge, gorgeous crystals. They go all the way to the bottom, Nimona says. One slip and we can kiss our short lives goodbye, Drandon says. Oh, good call. Watch your step, I say. We don't want accidental deaths after all. So the professor's down there somewhere, waiting for us, and that's fine. Totally fine, Arven says. All right, team. Watch yourselves and let's get to the bottom of this thing. This place looks unreal. Maybe there really is treasure down here like the stories say, Nimona says. Yeah. This place is like something from a whole other world. Makes you feel like maybe you already died and went somewhere, Arven says. Is it just me, or do the crystals here give off the same glow as when Pokemon terrestrialize? Penny asks. There's gotta be some sort of connection. Only one way to find out. Come on, everybody. Let's keep moving. We've got to go all the way down, I say. When we continue further down, we decide to continue the topic of Koraidon and Miraidon. So Koraidon and Miraidon came to our age through the time machine, Nimona says. Then they lived here a while with the professor? Along with another one of their kind? That seems to be the story, Penny says. So we brought them back home, kind of, or to their second home, at least, Nimona says. I guess this place should be familiar to them, sure, Penny says. Ah, that's great. A chance to unwind and bask in the familiarity, Nimona says. That doesn't exactly jibe with how they've been acting all spooked since we got here. They don't seem eager to come out of their ball anytime soon, either, Arven says. Really? I thought they were just scared 'cause we were so high up, Nimona says. Huh? Who said it was scared of heights? Lillie asks. I have to agree. We also think that both Koraidon and Miraidon have some mental problems as well, I say. Given how Koraidon and Miraidon were acting earlier, I think something bad happened to them here. Sometimes you get all shaky just seeing a place that you've got bad memories of, Penny says. It was the same for me when I was being ignored by everyone in my class. Just thinking about school made me want to hide away somewhere, so I know how they feel. Ah, Penny. Raychiu says. So, maybe it got hurt down here in Area Zero, just like Maybostif, Arven says. We can't know for sure, But they don't change into their battle form anymore, right? Luke asks. So I think it's possible. But that's so sad. We gotta do something to make it feel better, Nimona says. And no, I'm not just saying that 'cause I super badly wanna battle Corydon and Miraidon myself. Seriously. Well, at least you said it and not one of us, Raychiu says. Nimona, you're kind of unbelievable. In a mostly good way, Arvin mutters. When we head inside the final lab, we are surprised to see how ruined they look. What happened? This place is a mess, Drandon asks. It looks like something went berserk in here, Penny says. Yeah, but what? Arvin asks. We decide to look around and I notice 2 skeletons on the ground. And I say, guys, there are skeletons here. This causes the girls to jump a little as Luke asks, must be some people from a lot of years ago. We can't know about that for sure unless we have the medical team here, Drandon says. Hello, children. Professor Turo's voice comes this time. Gah. Professor. Why you scared us? Lillie says. I'm sorry, Professor Turo says. Why is everything in here all busted up? Raychiu asks. I'm sorry. Hello, children. Professor Turo says again. Come again. Arvin asks. Something is not right here. I'm SSSSSS sorry. Sorry. SSSSS sorry. I'm SSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSSS Luke asks. Stop that, you're creeping us out, Penny says. Hello, child. Children. 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 Initiating restart, Professor Turo says. The professor must be having some weird connection problems or something, huh? Nimona asks. I guess so. Considering all the things here are broken, maybe the Wi-Fi is also broken as well, I say. Well, it was definitely weird, at least. Almost like, I dunno. Arvin mutters. If she meant it as a joke, it wasn't funny. I've still got goosebumps and all, Penny says. Anyway, let's just deactivate the gate first, I say while pressing the button. Hello. Can you hear me now? Professor Turo asks. We can. I say. Please FFFV forgive my previous transmission. There seems to be some signal interference, Professor Turo says. That's not what that was, Arvin says, much to our confusion. What do you mean, Arvin? Nimona asks. The locks have all been disabled at last. Please make your way now to the Zero Lab, which lies at the very bottom of Area 0. Well, we're doing it tomorrow after all. Let's see what we can do here, I say. Then we notice some books as we read it. I need more people. More time. I need another set of hands, but could they be trusted? And how long would it take them to even understand? If only there were 2 more of us. Our new assistants have intellect and technical skills to rival our own. A bit rigid at times, but we've got no serious complaints. Productivity has doubled. We even brought in a second Koraidon and Miraidon via the machine, though these ones have proved aggressive. 2 more? Lillie asks. What does that even mean? I don't know, but I don't think I like it, I say. Then we head outside to find more Paradox Pokemon. This time it is a Misdreavus, but looking a bit different. Fluttermane. A ghostly pterosaur. Fluttermane. A name taken from a strange creature with a matching description appearing in the Scarvio book. Is said to float around the sky at night with its long hair writhing about it. Eyewitness accounts describe it as resembling a giant Misdreavus at first glance, albeit a highly fierce and aggressive one. Some believe that it's a ghost of a pterosaur from a long-gone era. Fluttermane. This sure is an interesting name, Lillie says. Besides the ghost type, this Pokemon is also capable of using Moonblast, which means a fairy type. So we use Iron Treads to defeat this Pokemon and capture it. Fluttermane. The Paradox Pokemon. Ghost and fairy type. It has similar features to a ghostly pterosaur that was covered in a paranormal magazine, but the two have little else in common. Then we also notice a robotic Hydreigon, and I say, Tyranitar, Salamence, and Hydreigon. How many pseudo-legendary Pokemon's paradox forms are there? I don't know. Lillie says. Iron Jugulus. Pokemon are machine. This flying life form bearing a resemblance to Hydreigon has been seen in a certain corner of Paldea. It was reported to have raised an entire building with a high-energy blast, then flown off as if to find its next objective. Iron Jugulus is theorized to be a sort of machine Hydreigon hybrid, as it combines the former's ruthlessness with the latter's ferocity. It takes its name from a similarly described entity in the Scarvio book. Iron again. This is the 6th time. I sigh. Iron Jugulus is a dark and flying type, even though I still think it might be the same as Hydreigon, but with the help of Flutter Mane, we managed to capture the Pokemon in the end. Iron Jugulus. The Paradox Pokemon. Dark and fairy type. It resembles a certain Pokemon introduced in a paranormal magazine, described as the offspring of a Hydreigon that fell in love with a robot. Once we were done, I decided to check out the 2 bones that we found at the research station. I remember from my sister that even the death would have left some aura memories with them, so I decided to check out what was going on. When I close my eyes, I can see some memories. I widen my eyes as I can see 2 Professor Sada and 2 Professor Turo working together with the time machine, but then I also notice Professor Turo being slashed by Iron Valiant, and Professor Sada is being slashed with the throat chop by Roaring Moon. I gasp as I take a step back. The others look at me with confusion. Nimona asks, Ash, are you alright? I'm fine. I say. The others look at me first before leaving to do their work. I stare at the 2 bones. Those memories. No doubt they're Professor Sada and Professor Turo's bones. But if that's the case, who are Professor Sada and Professor Turo that has been calling to us? And why there were 2 of each in the first place? Friday. Now we're going to the deepest part of Area 0. The Zero Lab, where Professor Sada and Professor Turo are waiting for us. I'm still thinking about what happened yesterday. Penny says. There was definitely something off about the professor just now, right? Maybe it was just a little dramatic flair to get us all jazzed for more adventuring, Nimona says. What? That got you jazzed? Raisa asks with confusion. Yeah, maybe even big time jazzed, Nimona replies. Nimona, you need to go see a doctor. That's just not right, Luke says. Say, I'm pretty sure that call was really, never mind. It's nothing. Arvin mutters. What's wrong, Arvin? Lillie asks. You seem kinda down, I ask. No matter how things turn out, I'm counting on you to see this through, Ash, Lillie, Arvin says. Once we get to the gate of Zero Lab, Arvin asks, have we finally reached the deepest part? We made it. Ready to see if those legends of treasure down here are for real? Nimona asks. Hey. Yeah, right. That's just fluff they write to fill the textbooks, Penny says. Just then, our Rotom phone rings again, and this time both Professor Sada and Professor Turo are calling us. Professor Sada says, hello, children. You've done well to make it here. The structure you see before you is the Zero Lab, Professor Turo says. That's where you are, right, professors? Brandon asks. But wait. Why does it look like the whole place is being swallowed up by crystals? Luke asks. The crystals here in Area 0 possess a peculiar energy. This energy can alter the functions of living things and optimize the performance of machinery. It is the same energy that allows Pokemon to terrestrialize, Professor Sada says. So, this entire building's been terrestrialized. Is that what you're saying? Arvin asks. Don't be silly, Arvin. Penny mutters. The professor implied something important about Terra orbs just now. They're made from the crystals down here in Area 0, aren't they? We all gasp in shock, and Professor Turo says, indeed. Though not many know it. Since you have disabled all 4 locks, the gate to the Zero Lab should now open for you. But once you open the gate, you will quickly be confronted with the dangerous Pokemon inside. They will likely make a break for freedom. You mean more Paradox Pokemon? Lillie asks. With the 8 of you working together, you should be able to best them. Professor Sada says. Prepare yourselves well, then open the gate. You've got Ash, Lillie, and I hear, doesn't matter what we're up against. We'll be fine, Nimona says. Ha. Well then, that puts all my worries to rest, Arvin says. When I'm about to press the button to open the gate, Arvin yells, hold it. Huh? Why? We're finally on the cusp of getting into the lab? Raychiu asks. Look, if it's true that a bunch of really dangerous Pokemon might come at us, then shouldn't we also have Koraidon and Miraidon help? Arven asks. Nemona says, that's a good idea. If Koraidon and Miraidon were like how we first saw in the Inlet Grotto, that'd be a huge help. I also want to see them battle too, Nemona says. But they haven't even wanted to let us ride them ever since we came down to Area Zero, Drandon says. And they can't enter their battle forms in the first place, Lillie says. But they're really strong. I know they are. Arven says. They ate all those Herba Mystica we found, too. When they really matter, I'm sure they'll fight. And Area Zero is where they used to live. If you bring them out of their ball now, maybe they'll able to find their family, too. Right? That's pretty sensible by your standards, Arven, Raychiu says. I dunno. Penny mutters. Well, we don't know if we don't try. I sigh as I take both Koraidon and Miraidon out of the Pokeball. All right, come on, guys. Now that we've got Koraidon and Miraidon ready, it's time to open that gate. After pressing the button of the gate is slowly opening, and just then, we hear a strange noise, and when we turn around, we find another Koraidon and Miraidon behind us. What the? Lillie and I mutter in shock. The family reunion, it's happening, Nemona yells. Whoa, no way, Drandon says. I don't think that's the case, Raychiu says after seeing how both Koraidon and Miraidon are scared. No. Something's not right, Lillie says. As the gate fully opens, the fierce Koraidon and Miraidon charge into the lab first. Arceus says to me, what a family reunion, don't you say? Shut up. I don't think they're family, I mutter. What's wrong? Are you bummed that your heartwarming family reunion got cut off so quickly? Nemona asks. Are you joking? There was nothing heartwarming about it, Penny yells. We were this close to getting caught up in a nasty brawl. Wait, for real? Drandon asks. Come on, Koraidon and Miraidon are just like us. Just because we're humans doesn't make Team Rocket my family, you know. I have to guess both Koraidon and Miraidon are the same, I say. Indeed. They looked terrified. Those two mustn't actually be their pals, Lillie says. Yeah, that other Pokemon were giving off some real bad vibes. Arven says. Not that you should worry a thing about any of that. Arven's right. Once we get you back into your battle form, I'm sure you'll be going toe-to-toe against those jerks. I say to both Koraidon and Miraidon. That is, you know, if you want to. Both Pokemon lower their heads, and I sigh, sorry, I guess that doesn't really help, huh? Do you think those other Koraidon and Miraidon were two of the dangerous Pokemon the professor warned us to watch out for? Drandon asks. But didn't the professor say the dangerous Pokemon would come out from inside? Nemona asks. You mean from inside the gate we just? Lillie asks, and much to our horror, a lot of weird-looking Amoonguss and Hariyama appear in front of us. Along those two groups, there are also a Fluttermane, a Great Tusk, an Iron Treads, and an Iron Jugulus. What the? Arven says, and now we are surrounded. It's pretty obvious they're not here to roll out a friendly welcome mat, Lillie says. There's no way we can handle this many, Penny says. And don't tell me, they're all ancient and future Pokemon? We've got a little disaster on our hands here, Luke says. Koraidon and Miraidon are a little scared, Nemona says. Then I guess it's my turn, I've been waiting. Yeah. Let's fight our way through. I say as we all fight against the Pokemon. I also take out the Occulture to see what the final two are. Brute Bonnet. Amoonguss meets Dinosaur. This bizarre creature is said to combine traits of dinosaurs with those of the Pokemon Amoonguss. It's named after a fierce mushroom creature of matching description that appears in the renowned Scarvio book. Brute Bonnet certainly resembles Amoonguss, though with its own unique twists. Its gigantic stature and seemingly low intelligence combine to make it a savage, powerful fighter. Iron Hands. Secretly a cyborg. This being's name comes from the one given to an iron-handed entity in the mysterious Scarvio book. It is said to have fists that move independent of its body and to be capable of throwing large, fast-moving vehicles. A leading theory holds that Iron Hands was once an athlete who became mortally wounded but was kept alive by being made into a cyborg. Why it so strongly resembles Hariyama, however, remains unanswered. Brute Bonnet can use Sucker Punch and Solar Beam, so it has the same type as Cacturn, and I have Slitherwing use Bug Buzz to defeat one and capture one. As for Iron Hands, it not only uses Focus Punch but also Wild Charge, meaning it's fighting an electric type, but Iron Treads can handle this Pokemon very well. Brute Bonnet. The Paradox Pokemon. Grass and Dark type. It bears a slight resemblance to a Pokemon described in a dubious magazine as a cross between a dinosaur and a mushroom. Iron Hands. The Paradox Pokemon. Fighting an electric type. It is very similar to a cyborg covered exclusively by a paranormal magazine. The cyborg was said to be the modified form of a certain athlete. Wow, they're strong. Now, this is a worthwhile challenge, Nemona says while defeating an Iron Treads. I'm glad you're on our side, but you're still really annoying when you say stuff like that, Penny says after defeating another Brute Bonnet. I have to say that the ancient past and the distant future must have been terrifying, Drandon says after defeating another Iron Hands. Koraidon and Miraidon are also helping as they are scaring the others away. Raychiu gasps, oh no, they're running away. Yeah, and? Penny asks. If those Pokemon get out, we're gonna have a gigantic mess on our hands, Nemona says. We're going after them. As Nemona rushes away, Drandon says, hold on, Nemona. And why do I get the feeling you're enjoying all this? Ash, Lillie, Raychiu, Arvin, we leave the rest to you guys. Luke says as Drandon, Luke, and Penny chase after Nemona. I hope the four of them can handle their part. Arvin says. But at least the crowd's been thinned out now. Guess it's up to us to deal with what's left. You're right. Raychiu says, let's deal with the strong ones first. After defeating more of the Pokemon, Arvin says, see, the power of friendship had us perfectly in sync. All thanks to our Titan hunting together. I notice Koraidon and Miraidon are still scared, and I say, still scared, huh? You worried you might have to face that other one of your kinds? Well then, let's take on some of the burdens, Raychiu says as she and Arvin turn to the rest of the Brute Bonnet and Iron Hands. These stragglers should be nothing, we can take them. So Ash and Lillie, you take your partners there and go take care of business, Arvin says. We're counting on you, Lillie says. Koraidon, Miraidon. Arvin says. You two really ruined my whole childhood, you know. But it's not like seeing you two cowering and scared out of your wits make me feel any better about it. You've got amazing powers if you just use them. And you've got us, too. So don't you even think about losing to those jerks. Be brave, stand up and fight. Never knew you gave out inspirational speeches, Raychiu says. Koraidon, Miraidon, let's go. I say as we all rush into the lab, and since we're alone, Arceus also shows up and says, it seems like there are only 16 kinds of ancient and future Pokemon we can find here. Yeah, and thank you for just observing and not doing anything as well, I mutter. You didn't want me to show myself in front of your friends, do you? Arceus asks. We sigh as we head further in, until we see a lab, and much to our surprise, Professor Sada and Professor Turo are sitting in front of us, with their heads lowering to the ground. We find the two professors in front of us, and to our shock, they say in unison, human presence detected within the Zero Lab. Why will they say at the same time? And what is going on here? Just then, both professors continue, deactivating sleep mode. Their eyes are blinking red for Sada and blue for Turo for a second, then they stand up, walking towards the two of us. Hello, Ash and Lillie. Thank you for coming, Professor Sada says. Before we can ask anything, the fierce Koraidon and Miraidon appear, and our Koraidon and Miraidon are scared as they hide behind us. No, back to your ball, Professor Turo says, and both professors take out their master balls and recall them. Those two are far less tractable and far more aggressive than the ones you've traveled with. Professor Sada sighs. Your Koraidon and Miraidon fled Area 0 because they lost to the other ones in a territorial struggle. I knew it. I sigh, remembering the Gumi incident back in Kalos, and both Pokemon frown at the same time. Professor Turo says, I'm afraid that there is something for which we must apologize. We're not the true Professor Turo and Professor Sada. What are you talking about? Lillie asks. I mean, if you're not Professor Sada and Professor Turo, then who are you? We are artificial intelligence the professors created, imbued with their memories and knowledge. In short, We are AI-powered robots. Professor Sada says, and both professors' eyes are blinking with their respective colors. The real professors passed away during the incident that destroyed Research Station Number 4, Professor Turo says. I knew it. Those bodies that we found back at Station Number 4 were the bodies of Professor Sada and Turo, I mutter. You knew this and you didn't tell either of us? Lillie asks me with shock. The Paradox Pokémon were not to be blamed. It was the original professors who failed to accurately judge their full power, Professor Sada says. We believe the professors wanted nothing more than for the Koraidon and Miraidon to survive and thrive. That's why they threw themselves in front of your Koraidon and Miraidon in an attempt to protect them, Professor Turo adds. From the time we first reached out to Director Clavel and asked to be put in contact with you, we were never more than ice, Professor Sada frowns. So that's why we couldn't contact them since the very beginning. They were robots. Ash and Lillie. The reason we asked you to come to us is that we have one last thing to do here at the Zero Lab, and we desire your help, Professor Turo says. In short, we wish for you to put a stop to the time machine the original professors created, Professor Sada says. What? We both exclaim in shock. Any questions can be addressed as we make our descent. Follow us, Professor Turo says. We follow the professors to the elevator, and Arceus says, I-powered robots. That sure is something interesting. I know, I say, but I feel sorry for Arvin, if he learns that his parents were dead. I wonder if my family could have created robots like these as well. Lillie says. I mean, they were friends and they might have shared information. That might be horrifying. I sigh as we head inside the elevator, which actually takes us down to the lower level. While we're at the elevator, Professor Sada says, Ash and Lillie. It truly is a great relief to us that you came. We will answer any questions you may have. Is there anything you wish to know? Professor Turo asks. What is an AI, really? I ask. Really? I know what is an AI, but I don't know why I would want to ask such a question. Professor Turo says, an AI is an artificial intelligence created by a human being. A computer draws on the original professor's knowledge and memories to calculate all of our thoughts and actions. The results of those calculations are expressed by this mechanical body, built to resemble the professor in every way. Humanity does not, in fact, possess the knowledge to develop such a sophisticated AI at present. But the crystals that make up the Zero Lab have made such a thing possible here. They are also why we cannot leave this place. So the crystal powers here can create the AI like Professor Sada and Turo in front of us, and that's why they can't leave here. What happened to the real professors? Lillie asks. I definitely want to know about that as well, since my aura can only give me short memories. Professor Sada says, as we explained to you before, the original professors no longer exist. During the destruction of the research station, their physical body received grievous injuries that left them unable to sustain lives. We're afraid that this fact may be difficult for their son, Arvin, to accept. We now manage the Zero Lab in the original professor's place. Yeah. Arvin definitely couldn't take it. Just like how I couldn't take my father's death at first. But I'm sure that in the future, he could heal, just like I did. What is this time machine? I ask. I have time traveled a lot of times, but I wonder what's so different about this time machine than the others. Professor Turo says, the time machine is a device that the original professors and we worked on together. It sends Pokeballs to a different point on the timeline to catch Pokemon there, and it can then draw them back here to the present. When they were alive, Professor Sada and Professor Turo had a great fascination with Pokemon from another age. What you might call ancient Pokemon and future Pokemon. Even as we speak, the time machine continues to automatically draw ancient and future Pokemon to this time. So that's why those Brute Bonnet and Iron Hands suddenly appear. This is interesting. Then what is it that you really want? Lillie asks. Professor Sada says, the original professors had a dream of a world in which ancient and future Pokemon might live alongside present-day Pokemon in harmony. But some of these Pokemon's powers seem to stem from a primal energy of the ancient past. Some of these Pokemon have gained a strange power due to their adaptations in the distant future. And these energies have proved too terrible. Their very existence brings destruction to the ecological balance of this current age. Professor Turo adds, the original professors would say that such destruction is a natural part of life. At present, The barrier around Area Zero is still working to keep the ancient and future Pokémon from escaping into the rest of Paldea. But we've begun to see Pokémon appear that can break the barrier, such as Great Tusk and Iron Treads. Eventually, they will break free of this walled garden known as Area Zero and run rampant across the Paldea region. Professor Sada says, and when they do, the rich and varied ecosystem of Paldea will be trampled beneath their coming. We may have been created as copies of the professors, and yet, we cannot seem to find the logic in allowing such a tragedy to occur. But any hope of preventing it would require overcoming the greatest AI that the original professors ever devised. We start to think of the professor's words. I know that I have some ancient Pokémon in my ranch, like Clever, Sneasler, Overquill. But then again, with Dialga and Celebi, they wouldn't have the strange powers that stem from the primal energy and live happily with the rest of my Pokémon. However, the Paradox Pokémon here is different. And I can see why they're concerned. There is also another question in our minds. What do they mean by overcoming the greatest AI that the original professors ever devised? Ash and Lillie. You have become formidable trainers. Now use that strength you have gained to destroy the dream Sada and Turo once cherished. Professor Turo says. If this can save the world, then we'll do it, Lillie says. We appreciate your willingness to help, Professor Sada says. When the elevator reaches the lowest level, we are gasping in shock to see the whole place made of crystals. In the middle of the room, there is a pedestal, and on top of it is the actual time machine. Behold, Professor Sada says. This is the time machine we perfected using the power of the Terrastal phenomenon. This looks amazing, Lillie mutters, and I stare at her with surprise. To stop the time machine, you will need to use the professor's ID, which has been embedded within the Scarvio book. Professor Turo says. It was very like the professors to put the final key we would need in that book. Of all places. They loved that volume since childhood. If you place the Scarvio book upon the pedestal here, you will be able to stop the time machine, Professor Sada says. There is just one issue. If you try to stop the machine, we will most likely attack you, Professor Turo says, and we widen our eyes in shock. But why? If you want to stop the machine, why would you try to prevent us? I ask. Artificial beings that we are, our own desires can be overridden by the system's programming, Professor Sada says. Once that happens, we're afraid we will become no more than battle machines, bound to defeat anyone identified as an obstacle by our code. Our battling abilities are peerless. They are built upon the analysis of all the battles carried out by the various champions of the Paldea region, Professor Turo says. Having seen the bond between you and your Pokémon, however, we believe you can prevail. We frown a little, which means when we try to stop the machine, the professors won't have their free will and they will stop us and fight us. It might be the toughest battle if that happens. Once you have readied yourself for this fight, please place the Scarvio book upon the pedestal, Professor Sada says. We sigh a little and Lillie asks, should we do it? We should. I say as I take out the Scarvio book and place it on the pedestal. Once it goes in, we hear a robotic voice. ID confirmed. Professor Sada and Professor Turo. Access granted. Initiating emergency shutdown. Please wait. Please wait. Access denied. We all take a step back, as the voice continues, shutdown command overridden. Reinitializing. Professor Sada and Professor Turo walk in front of us, and they say in unison, it's up to you now, Ash and Lillie. AI Sada and AI Turo switching to sleep mode. Activating offensive protocols. Just then, the floor below those two robots starts to rise and they reach the time machine. What is going on here? Lillie says with a slight scared tone. Please. Defeat us. Then their eyes start to glow, and Pokeballs start to fall from the time machines and land in their hands. At L57. At L457, my Dre 4 Mears 1's W17H1N Re 4 chains. 4ND your number 79E771 and 1N7 he W4Y. Both professors yell, and we know that the battle is starting now. Now the robot professors are against us, and they each send out the ancient and future Volcarona, Slitherwing and Iron Moth. 1D0 and 7KN0WWH0JOO, 7H1NKJOO, 4R3, 8U7, MN07 480U 770L 37-4NY0N 3 grams 37. N7H3W4Y0F my G04L5. The fact that the two robots are saying the same thing creeps us out, but both of us decide to go for Noivern and Crocodile to battle. Noivern, use acrobatics, I yell, and Noivern strikes the attack toward Slitherwing. Crocodile, use Stone Edge, Lillie commands, and Crocodile throws the stones at Iron Moth. N0W 7H12121N73R371N CH1LD D0J004C7U4LLY und 3 rupees 74ND4NC13N7P0K 3 meters 0 and 2W34KN3SS32? Both professors say at the same time. Iron Moth goes for the discharge, damaging Noivern, and Slitherwing uses Leech Life, taking Crocodile's health to recover itself. 7H1212 7H3P0W3R 7H34NC13N 7P457 D1574N7 Fu7R 3H0LD2 5 place 3ND1D 12 and 717? Both robots continue to say. I have Noivern use Boomburst, with Slitherwing dodging the attack, and Iron Moth has taken the damage instead. Then Crocodile sets up the sandstorm, creating the weather that damages all of the Pokemon except itself. Now finish with Rock Slide. Lillie yells, and both attacks hit the two Pokemon and cause them to be knocked out. Good, we managed to stop the first one. I say. Screamtail and Iron Bundle are their next Pokemon. Iron Bundle goes for the Snowscape to change the weather, and knocks out Crocodile with the Freeze Dry. Ice type is not something we're good at. Lillie mutters as she recalls Crocodile, sending out Lucario instead. Screamtail uses Play Rough and Ice Punch, also defeating Noivern with those two attacks. You did a good job, Noivern. Take a rest. I recall the Pokemon and send out Corviknight as my second Pokemon. Corviknight, use Steel Wing. I yell, and the attack hits Screamtail, but Screamtail uses Drain Punch on Lucario to recover some health. Lucario, use Aura Sphere. Lillie has Lucario use the fighting attack on the future Delibird, but Iron Bundle uses Water Pulse to hit Corviknight and make it confused. Corviknight, calm yourself and use Body Press on Delibird. Lucario, let's go with the Flash Cannon. Both of us command our Pokemon and we manage to defeat both Iron Bundle and Screamtail in the end. Brute Bonnet and Iron Hands are the next ones. Iron Hands uses Fake Out to make Corviknight flinch, and eventually knocks it out with the Thunder Punch. Brute Bonnet hits Lucario with the Sucker Punch and also defeats Lucario with the Earthquake. Those two again. They sure bring us a lot of trouble. I say as I send out Heracross and Lillie sends out Caillou. We lower the Pokemon's special defense using Caillou's Beads of Ruin ability. Heracross goes for Bug Buzz, hitting Brute Bonnet with the super effective move. Iron Hands try to Drain Punch Caillou, but Caillou dodges the attack and lands the Lava Plume on Brute Bonnet, knocking it out. As for Iron Hands, Heracross goes for Earthquake, which accidentally hits Caillou as well, but knocks out the future Hariyama in the end. The fourth Pokemon for them are Fluttermane and Iron Jugulus. With the Ruination, both Pokemon have their HPs halved. But Iron Jugulus goes for Air Slash, defeating Heracross, while Fluttermane uses Power Gem, knocking out Caillou. Caillou is a legendary Pokemon, and they just defeat it with ease? Lillie asks. We can't underestimate them. They probably have the same base stats, I say. We go for Ting Lu and Qian Pao, and they lower the special attack with Vessel of Ruin and defense with Swords of Ruin. Then we use Ruination to lower their HP to 1/4 of their health, and we also aim for Rock Slide and Icicle Crash, knocking both Pokemon out of the battle. Their fifth Pokemon are Sandy Shocks and Iron Thorns. Both of them are electric types, and an Earthquake from Ting Lu deals a lot of damage to both of them. But Iron Thorns goes for Brick Break, defeating Ting Lu, and Sandy Shocks goes for Flash Cannon to knock out Qian Pao. Those Paradox Pokemon really have the same base stats as the Treasure of Ruin, I mutter. And we only have Wo-Chien left. Lillie says as I send out the Pokemon. Lillie goes for Gardevoir, hoping to deal some damage to them. Wo-Chien uses Power Whip and Leech Seed, taking the ancient Magneton's health, and Gardevoir uses Energy Ball, striking the Paradox Tyranitar. In the end, both Pokémon are defeated by another Power Whip and Gardevoir's Moonblast. 3v3 Writhe 1 in 12 Proc 33D1 and W1 TH1N My 3 XP 3 Court 4 T1 on 2. 1 Foot M4 FR 41 DTH3 Pro 8481 L1 Tie of Ju W1 NN1 and 1223 RO. Both professors yell at the same time, and they send out their final Pokémon. Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant. Both of them are holding the booster energy, and their ability Protosynthesis and Quark Drive let their attack and special attack raise. Roaring Moon uses Night Slash, and Iron Valiant uses Spirit Break, defeating both Pokémon with just one move. This is bad. I say. I agree with you. We only have Pikachu and Snowy left, and they have to fight their way through the two Pokémon. We terrestrialize our Pokémon, making them both Fairy-type Terra-type. Dazzling Gleam. Lillie yells, and Snowy's Dazzling Gleam is dealing a lot of damage to both of the Pokémon, especially Roaring Moon. I guess Fairy-type really is the only way to defeat them. I say as I have Pikachu use Play Rough on Iron Valiant, while Lillie continues to attack by having Snowy use Blizzard, and both Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant defeat the two Pokémon with ease. I am possible. Both robot professors' bodies are smoking. I wonder what's about to happen then. The platform is lowered and the crystals turn dark. Both professors are returning back to normal with the code now failed. Ash. Lillie. At the same time, 6 of our friends rush in. Penny asks, "What's this? Did you already beat all the baddies without us?" Nimona asks. "Okay. Out with it, you." Arven steps in front of his robot parents. "Who are you, really?" Thank you. For everything. Professor Turo says. The time machine has finally been stopped. You're really not my mom and dad, are you? Arven demands. Oh. Look. How big you've grown. Professor Sada says. So, proud of you, my. Sorry. You were alone so long. Arv. Before Professor Turo can finish, the crystals around us start to become scarlet and violet all of a sudden. Mom? Dad? Arven asks with confusion, and we hear the robotic words again. Security system failure, security system failure. Threat to time machine detected. Threat to time machine detected. Wait, what's going on now? Drandon asks. Is another army of Pokémon on their way here? Raychiu asks. It cannot be. Professor Sada gasps. An obstacle is preventing the time machine from performing as intended. Activating Paradise Protection Protocol to remove the offending obstacle. Was keeping the time machine running truly all the professors cared about? Professor Turo asks with shock. Locking all Pokeballs except those registered to Sada and Turo's ID. Wait, what? Nimona asks with shock. Program initializing. Gathering Terrastall energy. Just then, both Professor Sada and Professor Turo's eyes are blinking again, and this time their bodies are terrastallizing. I'm sorry. Children. This is too much for you, Professor Sada says. You must run. Professor Turo yells. Arven tries to reach them, but they all go into sleep mode before waking up with their eyes glowing bright. AI Sada and Turo disabled. Paradise Protection Protocol initialized. The platforms are rising again, and both Professor Sada and Turo yell, JOO, R3N0T93TT1N1N my W4Y. And they throw the Pokeballs to reveal Koraidon and Miraidon. I say, this is bad. Lillie, let's do it. Right. We throw the Pokeballs with Noivern and Gardevoir to the ground, but much to our shock, the balls have chains surrounding them. We can't send out our Pokemon? Lillie yells in horror. Not just you. Our Pokeballs won't work. How are we even supposed to battle? Luke says. Penny tries to hack into the Rotom phone, and she says, Gia, some crazy electrical signal is jamming our Pokeballs. Even I can't get them open. That's totally cheating, and you call yourself an adult? Arven yells. They are robots, they're not actually adults. I say. Pikachu, Snowy. Can you two still battle? Both of them have been injured because of Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant. Their terrestrialization is gone, but they strike the Pokemon with dazzling gleam and play rough. But Koraidon uses Flamethrower on Snowy, and Miraidon uses Power Gem, knocking both Pikachu and Snowy to the ground. Damn it. Pikachu and Snowy will only get injured if they keep going on. Lillie frowns. I grit my teeth. Is there no other way we can do? If Pikachu and Snowy continue to take the hit, I'm sure that they can't continue. Arceus appears beside me and says, Ash, send out Koraidon and Miraidon now. Arceus. If only he has his full body with me instead of just a soul. He would be able to fight both Pokemon on his own. Wait, what did he just say? I widen my eyes in surprise. That's right. Koraidon and Miraidon. They aren't our Pokemon. They're still Professor Sada and Professor Turo's Pokemon. I throw the two Pokeballs and both Koraidon and Miraidon appear. Koraidon, Miraidon. You can do it, I say, and just then, both Koraidon and Miraidon start to transform, finally get into their battle forms. Nice. Lillie cheers as we decide to check out the Pokédex. Koraidon. The Paradox Pokemon. Fighting and Dragon type. This seems to be the winged king mentioned in an old expedition journal. It was said to have split the land with its bare fists. Miraidon. The Paradox Pokemon. Electric and Dragon type. This seems to be the Iron Serpent mentioned in an old book. The Iron Serpent is said to have turned the land to ash with its lightning. Koraidon has the ability Orichalcum Pulse. It turns the sunlight harsh when the Pokemon enters a battle. The ancient pulse thrumming through the Pokemon also boosts its attack stat in harsh sunlight. While Miraidon has the ability Hadron Engine, it turns the ground into electric terrain when the Pokemon enters a battle. The futuristic engine within the Pokemon also boosts its SP 80 stat on electric terrain. Both Pokemon are roaring with each other, and then they start to attack. Lillie says, Koraidon, use Collision Course. Koraidon transforms into sprinting mode and crashes to the ground, causing a massive prehistoric explosion. If only we're facing a Pokemon that fighting is super effective against, then this move will deal more damage. Miraidon. Use Electro Drift. I yell. Miraidon races forward at ultrafast speeds, piercing its target with futuristic electricity. Like Koraidon, this move will do more damage if it is used as a super effective move. They changed into their battle form. They got this. Nemona cheers. UW1LL Fall H3R3, W17H1B7H129 ARD3N Parad 123 and ACH13V3N07H1 and 1N7H33ND. Then they go for Flamethrower and Power Gem again, but we have both Pokemon take the hit as they don't do that much. JOOW1LLN07, 8E4LL0 WED 70-57 R0Y0 P4R4D12E. 08574 Cle2, 70, OR 904 L2W1LL8EL1 meter 1N47 ed. Then they start to bulk up and charge, raising their stats. This looks like it could be worse. Hang in there, Luke says. 7 He D474 S4Y 1 meter 7 He Super 10R. F4LL. 4ND8 EC0 Me 4F0 UND 4710N up 0 NWH1 Chain My Dre 4 meters M4Y8E8 U1L7. Then they all go for the Giga Impact and Hyper Beam. Endure now. We yell at the same time, and all of them manage to endure the hit. Arvin cheers. You took that hit like a champ. You can do this, I know you can. And now, both Pokemon need to be recharged, and we use the chance to heal both Pokemon up. Raycha notices Nemona's concern and asks, what's wrong? I wonder if they can pull off a win here. If they take another Giga Impact or Hyper Beam, then it is a no-go. Just then, our Terra Orbs are glowing, and we notice them and take them out. I say, of course. The crystals here are filled with crystals. That means we can terrestrialize once more. Lillie says, let's do it. We both terrestrialize our Koraidon and Miraidon, and they both become dragon types. Terra Blast. We yell in unison, and the blast creates a giant explosion that blasts the Koraidon and the Miraidon, knocking them out. Both Professor's crystals start to break as well, as they kneel on the ground. You did it. Nemona hugs both of us and cheers. It's not going berserk anymore? Penny asks. How? How very astounding. Professor Sada says. To think that you would manage to defy even the original professor's final protections. Are you back to normal? Arvin asks. Yes. A completely unforeseen outcome, even for an AI possessing the most sophisticated technology ever conceived. Even on the brink of despair, you children did not give in and instead proved your worthiness. Showing the wisdom to think for yourselves, the courage to hold faith in your friends, and the fortitude to do what had to be done. Professor Turo says. No matter how difficult your own pasts may have been, I believe you will be capable of walking whatever paths you choose for yourselves now. With pride. I thank you, Ash and Lillie. I thank all of you children, Professor Sada says. But I am afraid that the time machine cannot be put to a complete stop so long as we are here. Professor Turo says. It appears we ourselves are part of the system that ensures the machine reboots when stopped. Professor Turo says. Huh? What does that mean? Drandon asks. I am sorry. You know, when we were watching you all on your adventures from down here, we felt a sense of jealousy. We envied you your freedom. The way you came together, working in league with your fellows and caring for them. The way that you sought strength and to better yourself, throwing all you were into your battles. The way that you would face down even the greatest enemies to save that which you loved. The way that you never ceased to seek, nor to fight for, a treasure all your own. When Koraden and Miraiden roar, Professor Turo says, and the way that you soared free through the very skies on those wings of yours. We wish that we, too, might be as free as you all, free to seek out that which we might treasure above all else, not bound. Your own treasure. I mutter. As long as we remain here, the time machine will not stop, for we are inextricably connected to it. So we've made a decision. We will use the time machine to journey to the world of the ancient past and the distant future that we have dreamed of. Professor Sada says. We all gasp in shock, and Nimona says, What? You can't just leave now, right when we finally reached you. We are not going only so that the time machine can be stopped. We also cannot deny my desire to see that ancient and future world for ourselves. Professor Turo says. Is this what it feels like to have your heart race with the thrill of adventure? Arvin. We are sorry that we kept the truth from you for so long. We inherited all the thoughts and wishes of the professors, and so we understand better than any. Your parents truly loved you, Professor Sada says. You can't, Arvin says with tears in his eyes. You can't just go and say things like that now. No, I suppose you're right. We're sorry, Professor Turo says. It's a little sad, but we're afraid this is goodbye. Just then, the time machine is moving, and both of them say, Farewell, my free adventurers, I bid you adieu. Mom. Dad. Arvin yells, trying to reach them, but Ash and Lillie stop him, knowing that it's probably too late. After the time machine is finally closed, Arvin yells, How could you just go? Mom. Dad. Arvin. You okay? Lillie asks with concern. Yeah. Somewhere deep down, I kind of already knew it. I knew those things were fake. But when they said my name, using their voice and wearing their faces, even if they were fake, they felt real, you know, and so sorry, I don't know what I'm saying. That's okay. Penny says. When Koraden and Miraiden frown, I say, I guess Koraden and Miraiden are sad, too. Oh, but those battle forms, how cool is that? They're so strong, Nimona says. If either of them tries to nudge at me for a belly rub while they're huge like this, I seriously think I'm gonna die, Penny mutters. Hey now, let's not skip over the big win here. Ash, Lillie, Koraden, and Miraiden just saved all of Paldea, Luke says. That's right, you both did amazing, Drandon says. That's Ash and Lillie for you. Raychiu says. You know, Arvin. Even though the professors are gone. I bet they're finally having a real fun adventure of their own in the past or the future, Lillie says. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Arvin says. Then we all decide to leave Area 0 and head back to the school, finishing our adventure in the end. Let's take the long road home, and get a little more fun out of this adventure, Nimona says. I don't really. Arvin frowns. Sounds great. If we can load up on snacks first, I'm in, Penny says. We all nod as we go after Nimona and Penny, Hey, Ash and Lillie. Not you, too, Arvin yells. Both Koraidon and Miraidon nudge Arvin to move forward. Oh, alright, fine. I guess we're doing this. Then the 8 of us and 4 Pokemon are walking in the beautiful lands of Paldea, trying to enjoy everything we can. After our adventure in Area 0, we are all called into Director Clavel's office. Director Clavel has been calling us for our achievements in the treasure hunt, and also he is awarding us the Hall of Fame badge. Director Clavel also apologizes for Arvin's parents' death. And Arvin is already over with it, and he wants to find out more about his parents and enjoy the rest of the school days. After that, Chairwoman Gita also enters the office, and she wants to help out organizing the Academy Ace tournament so we all can attend and battle with other students and teachers. It is actually a fun way to celebrate, and it will be held once a month with different rewards for the one who reaches the top. A lot of our teachers are actually tough in battles, but we're glad to be able to win against them. Lillie and I are going back to the Kanto region because of the winter vacation, and Mother requires us present to deal with what's left of Team Rocket after their boss's death. And we're also helping them defeat the rest of the Team Rocket grunts. Our friends also come to us to the Kanto region so that they can see what our house looks like and all the Pokemon that we owned. They're having a lot of fun there, and our Pokemon are also happy to see the new Pokemon we caught in Paldea. After telling Lillie's parents about what happened to Professor Sada and Professor Turo, of course, they are sad at first, but they manage to get over with and have the Ether Foundation members investigate Area 0 and the time machines. The Paradox Pokemon aren't able to go back home because the time machine was stopped, so the Ether Foundation has set up a lab there so that they can protect the Pokemon and also research more about them as they did to Ultra Beasts. Professor Sada and Professor Turo's fierce Koraidon and Miraidon are also left at the Zero Lab, so we decide to take them back with us and also have the Ether Paradise research them as well. They have been slowly getting along with the other Koraidon and Miraidon without getting into a fight like before. Much to our delight. After the new semester, Arvin has been looking around the school for the things that his parents did, and we also join them because we also want to find out what our parents do in the school. Arvin also enjoys cooking and battling with us, although as a senior from a different department, he wouldn't be able to meet with us all the time. Penny has been concerned about the Team Star friends in the school, so she asks us to help her check out what the others are doing without showing up in front of them. Speaking of the Team Star bosses, Mela and Eri are now in the same class as us because of their protracted truancy, but they don't mind as long as they have friends with them in the same class. And the other 3 are also doing well in their departments. Lillie and I also decide to do cross-department elective courses so that we can learn more other than our classes. I admit that some of the classes are very hard, but we both enjoy all of them. And our popularity also causes the 2 of us to be elected as the successor of Nimona in the student council. I got a vote higher than Lillie, so I become the president and Lillie becomes the vice president when we get into the next grade. Dawn, Go, and Chloe enroll in the university when we become sophomores, and they have been getting along well with our group as well. And while we're being the presidents, we are making sure that we don't end up just like how Giacomo was, and it was also very sad to give Nimona and Arvin a graduation that they deserved once the second year of school was about to be over. I have to say that Paldea region is awesome, although I also like the other regions, but this region is also unique, and I'm very happy to be able to travel with Lillie in this region and get to meet all kinds of Pokemon and take a step towards being the Pokemon Master. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts and reviews in the comment box. Now I will see you in the next video.